A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, just waiting.
And it's lights out and away we go. It's a great start from Sebastian Vettel. We come up the inside. McLaughlin uses his space off. They run, but the Red Bull Racing man has got through. The champion's done the job. They're all gone. They're all gone. Tander's off. McLaughlin's off. Make room. Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt. There's another 7-time champ. Jimmy Johnson wins his 7th NASCAR Sprint Cup championship.
Hello and welcome everybody to the final round of the AMS Oz GT3 Championship. Apologies for the late stream getting up, a few technical issues. We're already into qualifying, but we'll do our best to bring you to the action as quickly as we can. A few formalities to go through first though. Nether here holding down the fort for the ARW and Short Shift commentary team. Joined as always by Bagsy from ARW and Matt Williams, aka Scruff, from Short Shift and AMS Oz. Gentlemen, good evening to you both. We got championship implications tonight.
Yeah, indeed we do, and it's looking to be quite the spicy championship with, well, we've still got 8 people who are in with a chance, not all of them racing tonight, unfortunately, and some of them very long odds, but yeah, definitely a championship battle on the line.
Certainly is. Scruff, what about yourself? What are you looking forward to most tonight?
Well, there is a lot to look forward to tonight, points being so close to many of the top drivers. Obviously, it's hard to go past the champion being crowned, so I'm going to have to go with that.
Yeah, it certainly is. And speaking of crowning a champion, let's bring up the points, because they are very, very tight at the top, but there's a couple of championships that have, we need to bring to everyone's attention. Bagsy, let's have a look at it.
Yeah, we've got Wedding in the lead. He's had a brilliant season so far. I say brilliant season. He's won every race that he's finished. 4 race wins out of 6 starts, but 2 DNFs as well, which is really the only reason why this championship is so close at the moment, is because he's had a couple of issues in the recent past at Sebring and Spa. Brock Harvey is very close behind. He's only 2 points behind in second. So basically, for either of those two, if they win the race, they win the championship, because first place is 20 points and second place is 17. Greg Nangle is also with a shot, albeit he's 11 points back and he needs some luck to go his way, but we have seen luck go his way so far earlier in the season. It'll be interesting to see if he can make it up. Matt Schwartz is also in with a shot. He's probably, him and Matt Webb are the longest odds, so they'll be the ones to watch in 4th and 5th on 63 and 60 respectively.
Yeah, they certainly are. So your top 5 realistically is where it's at. In actual fact, even if Matt Webb was to win tonight and Lewis DNF'd, it would go to Lewis Wedding on account back by virtue of 4 wins to 3. So realistically, it's the top 4 that are in contention for overall honours. But a couple of points we should point out here. Pro A has already been sewn up by Lewis Wedding. The nearest challenger you can see on your screen there is Jamie Snow. He's 23 points back, and it's 20 points for a race win. So even if Jamie Snow won the race, he would not unseat Lewis for Pro A honours. Pro B, well, that's undecided, because you can see there we've got Brock, we've got Greg, and we've got Matt, all within earshot of each other of taking that title. They're the only 3 in contention for overall honours in Pro B, although the second and third place overall could change with a couple of the other guys there on your screen a couple of points further back. Pro-Am and the unranked technically is also undecided. Off your screen there is a couple of other runners who are in with a shot, but realistically they would need something to go their way in a big way in order for Matt Webb to lose that lead in the Pro-Am unranked that he currently has. Well, very quickly, let's have a look at the circuit. Laguna Seca, it's a 2-hour event tonight, that's why we're on a little bit early. We're going to get 85 laps on estimate. There's a number of high points of this circuit, and none other than the corkscrew turns 8 and 8A. I don't know why it's got a name a number of 8A, but we'll come more into that in a bit of detail. But going to deliver an exciting race. Well, I think it's about time we got ourselves over and had a look at what's going on in the qualifying side of things. So we're running a little bit late as we bring up qualifying. Let's have a look at what's going on track. Here's Jorrit van Dassel. He's on track at the moment. Man at the top of the timesheets at the moment, Andy Simpson, leading the times, currently has posted a 1 minute 21.94, and he was the quickest man at the end of the practice session, which finished about 5 or so minutes ago. And don't be fooled, the time on your screen there, even though it says 52 minutes and 50 odd seconds to go, the qualifying session will be advanced in about 7 or 8 minutes time.
Yeah, once everyone's completed the lap that they're on, and have to be policed a little bit because we've got the time wrong there, unfortunately. But it'll be made sure that no one gets in any sneaky laps. The Jorrit van Dassel has just jumped up into second place with a 1:22.1, just ahead of Lewis Wedding, who was sandbagging a bit in the practice session. He was doing low 24s in the practice session on a slightly heavier fuel load, and he's dropped all pretensely slower than Brock Harvey, and has absolutely gone for it. He's currently third.
Yeah, we did notice that Lewis was down about 4th or 5th on the timesheets in the practice session. We suspect, obviously, going on with a bit of a fuel load, just to see how things would go. As we're watching Jorrit again, he just gives a little bit of a flash of the lights of the Porsche as he heads up the hill toward the corkscrew. It's an 18-metre drop in elevation from the top point. So from this point right here, it's 18 metres straight down right to the bottom. It comes up very, very quickly, and it's such a sudden drop, and your stomach goes right back into your guts. But Jorrit navigated it very nicely, but not turn 9 there. He's lost it quite badly off of that turn, and that puts into his lap. Let's have a look at Lewis Wedding. So he's just exiting the pits now, going for another run. So he's the man that leads the title race at the moment from Brock Harvey by 2 points. Harvey currently down in 9th, and third place man Greg Nangle is right behind Brock Harvey in 10th at the moment.
It's interesting. Brock Harvey, we're talking about him as a championship contender here, which is, he's been up and about in every race, but he actually has not had a single podium this season. He's been in every race. He's had 1 DNF, but his highest position is 4th. He's had 4 4th places, and that's what's got him here, is being consistent.
Yeah, it certainly has, and he stressed to us to me before the race that he wasn't so much focused on the overall honours. He was more focused on the class win, and that class that he's in, the Pro B class, is yet to be decided. He's got Greg breathing down his neck, so first and foremost, he needs to make sure that he finishes ahead of Greg, or if not ahead of Greg, within earshot of him, to make sure he keeps his class honours. And then I guess you turn your attention to what happens up front. You don't want to focus too much on it if you're battling away in that particular class. But here goes Lewis Wedding across the line. Let's follow him as he sweeps through turn 1, over the hill, and down through the left-hander, now down to turn 2. This is nicknamed the Andretti hairpin, after Mario Andretti, the Formula 1 champion. And now comes up to turn 3, the first of the infield corners that were added not long after the circuit agreed to host the MotoGP things, to make it long enough to host those races. Turn 4 here, Wedding nearly 3/10 down the pole time. Turn 5, and this is where the climb up the hill begins. So from turn 5, run it wide, up and under the bridge. It's now through turn 6, and onto the Rahal Straight, which now the elevation kicks up. And now up to the corkscrew. Moves it over nicely to the right-hand side. Taking a bit of a shallower line there, Lewis Wedding. Down through the corkscrew. Now through turn 9. Rainy curve after 500cc Formula 1 champ Wayne Rainey. He's lost. He's done exactly what Jorrit did off of turn number 9. Manages to gather it up. Now through turn 10 and now to turn 11. But he's going to probably bin this lap and have another crack, Lewis, because he got very, very loose off of the exit of turn 9, and he probably won't be the only one to lose it there during the course of the evening, and he consequently sets a 1:23.5, so losing it all in that second sector. Third sector.
He had a purple middle sector there, and it was quite a good one too. It was faster by almost half a second over Andy Simpson, and quite the lap he's put in there. Just looking at the time history at the moment, one of our championship challengers, Greg Nangle, as well as Brock Harvey, are both line astern, but in 10th and 11th, a long way off Lewis Wedding at the moment, to the tune of about 0.8 of a second and 8 positions.
Yeah, they've just been jumped by somebody recently in the rankings too, because about 2 minutes ago they were 9th and 10th respectively, so now they're down to 10th and 11th, so that splits them onto 2 different rows of the grid. Granted, they'll stern. Oh, we've just seen Wedding just venture off. I think it was at turn 6 there, so we'll see if we can find somebody else what's happening. Let's see if we can find their other championship contenders, Harvey and Tarup. So here's Harvey rounding the last bend, lights ablaze, about to try and set himself another lap. Now this is probably the last lap he's going to get, because the clock is closing in on us now, 47 minutes 40 seconds, and Scruff has said he's going to advance it in about 2 minutes. So this is final laps here. If you don't get out and get a lap done now, you are starting where you currently are unless you get bumped. So here's Harvey through turn 3. He's got Brenton Foley just ahead of him in the Ferrari. Through turn 4. This turn 4 is going to be an interesting turn tonight, too, gents, because you can take that corner relatively quick, but it's one of those corners that tries to encourage you to take it faster than you actually want to take it.
Yeah, you got to be careful not to be sucked in, especially not in a race this long. It's easy to make a mistake, and you don't want to do that when you've got to last 2 hours.
No, certainly not. Brock Harvey through the second sector split. Is a second down. Someone going the wrong way up the corkscrew. That's interesting. Looks like a Mercedes. We can't see who it is. If it is, it's probably might be Luke from memory, but we'll not 100% sure. And Brock's done the same thing. He's gone very, very wide at the exit of turn 9, but it wasn't penalised. It was actually a little bit better than what we've seen in the last few times some guys have taken that particular turn. Now hard on the anchors for the final turn. And you can afford to run it a little bit wide off the curb there. That's nicely done. And charges to the line, and he actually was penalised with a track cut there off of turn 9, so this is his final lap here. What of Greg Nangle? So Nangle has exited the corkscrew by the look of things, and he's on a lap as well. So let's follow him. And the Porsche getting out of the once they're getting out of the way, that's dangerous, because that's the line that Greg wanted for that turn, and the Porsche was in his way. I think that's Andy back there, so that won't be. Greg won't be too happy with that.
Yeah, that one might be looked at later on, because he definitely blocked him pretty significantly there, did Andy, and Andy wasn't on a fast lap.
We've also just had Jaden Draper has turned before a corner to the outside of the track and taken out Lewis Wedding.
Well, that's not going to be going down too well as well, with Draper up in second and Wedding now down in 6th place. So a few late changes going on there. We were just riding with Brock Harvey, so he set a PB for second sector here. Let's see if we can improve on that, because Greg's finished. Greg's not going to get another lap. That's Nangle, that is, not Tara. Brock's sandwiched by a pair of Gregs at the moment. That's much better through turn 9. And through turn 10 now, he's got one more turn to go. Can he improve on his time? You can see he's got Webb and Tara ahead of him. Oh, and he's gone too deep. So no, that's the end of that. No more laps for Brock Harvey. And clouts the exit wall of turn 11 for good measure. Well, your pole sitter at this stage is going to be Andy Simpson. He's on another lap, but pretty much agreed that the server is about to be advanced.
When Brendan Ross finishes his lap.
Which is when Brendan Ross finishes his lap. Now, where's Brendan Ross on track at the moment? Because that's the interesting thing.
Turn 4.
He's at turn 4. So the guys on track have still got a little bit of time.
Matt Schwartz has made a mistake going out the final corner. He won't get any better than 12th. So the next person on the road is Andy in 16th. And then we've got Jaden Draper, who's just put out of his lap, I believe.
Yeah, so Matt Webb following Andy Simpson here at the moment through the corkscrew. Now Simpson 2.5 tenths, or nearly 2.5 tenths away from his own time at the moment. Matt Webb's the interesting one for me. He's going with Simpson at the moment, so Matt Webb potentially on for a good lap as well. In actual fact,
Tara is on a personal best at the moment, and he's about to come across the line.
Yes, and we'll follow Matt Webb because he's right behind Andy Simpson and getting a nice little tow from that Audi. Let's see if Matt Webb can improve his time, because he's been relatively quick in the last few races, and he does. He goes up to second. That's a massive improvement for Matt Webb. So he unseats...
Almost first as well.
Almost first, not by very much either. So he unseats Draper from the front row, pushes him down to a second row start with Anthony Graham, who's done very, very nicely since coming into the series as well. That moves Van Dassler down to row 3 in 5th. So your pole sitter is Andy Simpson, but unbeknown to Andy, he very nearly handed that pole position to Matt Webb.
Lewis Wedding is going to be very unhappy that his probably fastest lap was stopped by a crash with Jaden Draper, because Jaden Draper's ended up third and Wedding has ended up down in seventh despite a strong showing at the start. So we were saying before how Wedding was in third and Brock Harvey and Nangle down in 10th and 11th. Well, now Wedding is 7th and Brock Harvey and Nangle are still in 10th and 11th. So that's going to be interesting for Wedding. His championship contenders are much closer and he's much deeper in the pack. So he's got a good chance of having issues going to the first corner when there's all the bumping and barging that often happens at the start of the race.
Yeah, certainly agreed. And although we didn't capture it on the broadcast, Scruff certainly has seen it. And Scruff, do you think Lewis has a right to feel aggrieved by what happened to him and, with his collision with Jaden Draper?
The camera angle I saw it from, he has every reason to be very upset with him after that one. And if I had my regular stewarding team here, we'd be discussing his grid place very quickly as we speak.
Yeah, well, Lewis obviously hasn't requested your presence just yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if he does. But I think, knowing Lewis being the professional that he is, he would just say, you know what, it's done and dusted now. There's nothing I can do about it. If he gets moved, he gets moved. I'm not going to be promoted any higher than what I am. And even if it was, a rear of grid penalty for Jaden Draper, it would only put Lewis one more starting position higher than what he is. So
Exactly.
I think he's probably just copping it on the chin.
With the limited view I did have on it, it wouldn't be reasonable for me to make a call on it at the moment, given I can't actually replay because I don't know any hotkeys.
Yep. No, that's fair enough too. And we've also changed sessions.
As it stands, I'll be leaving that, but there may be repercussions down the line with that particular incident.
Well, there may very well be repercussions because, as Bagsy has said, it puts Lewis almost mid-pack along with his other championship rivals, and there is the risk here of being caught up in a Turn 1 calamity. We'll soon find out. We hope that it doesn't happen, but the last thing we want to see is the championship contenders getting driven off the road or caught up in an accident that is avoidable. But stranger things have happened. We saw it last round at Road America, that anything can happen, and sometimes, in the quiet words of Murray Walker, it usually does. Well, we've got 8 minutes and 20 seconds in this warm-up session. I'm going to hand over the reins to Bagsy and Scruff for a little bit while I take a short break. So I'll be back shortly, and Matt and Bagsy can have a chat about what they are looking forward to in tonight's race.
Unfortunately for you, Bagsy, I may actually have to jump off.
Yeah, we're having some slight technical issues with Matt Williams not quite preparing the server exactly as we'd like it.
I did actually set qualifying to 15 minutes and the starting format to rolling. I remember doing them, so I'm really not sure what's going on here at all.
There's some brief technical gremlins that I'm sure will be worked out soon. In the meantime, I'm wondering if Stairs is around to come join me temporarily. I'm not sure if he is. But anyway, if you're still here, Scruff, while working on these issues, who's your pick for the win today?
I would go with Lewis Wedding, but he's being a little bit further down the grid. It's harder to say that, but also being such a long race, it's still very difficult to go past him. But if we are not being predictable, I'd have to go with either Andy Simpson or Matt Webb, just based on that.
Fair enough. Our intrepid pit reporter Stairs has come to the rescue while Scruff goes and deals with the server issues. Stairs, what's your pick for the win?
Oh, goodness gracious. It's hard to go past Andy Simpson. His pacing qualifying was immense. So it may sound like a bit of an obvious choice, and he's had his gremlins in the past with pit stops, but I think with that experience behind him now, he should, if he doesn't have too many issues, he should be able to sort that out. The only question mark may be over his strategy, because we know that there are some people who like to save fuel and maybe make it one less pit stop. People like Lewis Wedding and Matt Webb, for example, might be trying something like that from what I've heard of their streams so far. So the strategy could be a pretty big part of it, especially if we have a safety car.
Yeah, strategy is definitely going to be the biggest part of it, and it's going to be it's going to be interesting to see how those people play out. You can, if you would like, get the driver streams if on the AMS Oz Facebook page, I believe. You'll find some of the links to those people there, so that'll be good as well.
Yeah, if you're looking for those, well, Lewis is streaming on at Loose89. That's his username on Twitch, and Matt Webb also streaming on YouTube, and his YouTube name Webby Moto. So definitely some interesting stuff going on there. If you want to keep it updated with what sort of fuel levels they're running and tyre wear.
Cheers, Stairs, and I believe we've got Nether back in the box. Nether, you there?
Yeah, guys, I am back. It's unfortunately winter has not been very kind to me, so I've had 3 coughs and colds, and this is the 3rd one. So having to take a little bit of a break just to sort myself out before we get going. And now good to hear Stairs in here with a little bit of intel as to what's going on. Having taken part in the GT3 on a couple of occasions, I'm very well versed in GT racing.
I must say, sorry, Bagsy, but the strength of this competition has just gone up in leaps and bounds. Seeing Wedding and well, Webb pulled a lap out in the end of that qualifying session, but Wedding struggling down there in 7th. It just goes to show how much the competition has evolved.
I completely agree.
Also, Stairs is no slouch himself in this series, having raced 4 times and his worst position being 5th, so he's still actually 9th in the championship, still on the front page of the championship, despite not having participated in the last few weeks.
See if I can keep that top 10.
I don't think you'll have any problems keeping your top 10 there. Well, we just ticked under 4 minutes here at Laguna Seca, which if you're interested, this is we'd like to give a couple of unknown facts every now and again. Laguna Seca in Spanish actually means dry lagoon, so that's how it got its name back in 1957.
Is that an unknown fact? Because surely everyone Spanish would know that fact.
Well, the Spanish probably know that, but how many of the Spanish people actually watch our broadcast? That's another question. But doing a little bit of research, that's what comes up. Apparently, it was a dry lagoon in Spanish, and the track was actually built around what was a dry lake bed. And since the circuit was actually redesigned, then they've put into artificial lakes.
Yeah, I guess the name sort of stuck at that point, though, so they can't really change it to 2 lakes, can they?
No, they really can't. And what's actually interesting as well now is when looking at the shot we have of our camera down the main straight here, you'll see across the top it says Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. That is actually now, that is its former name. It is now called WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. So it's had yet another change of name.
I'll be honest, I think I prefer Mazda Raceway over WeatherTech, to be honest. It's sort of like the Geelong Stadium changing names every other year. So it's been, it was originally Cardinia Park, and it's had many other iterations.
Simmons Stadium and...
Yeah, Simmons Stadium. Now I believe it's the GHMBA Arena or something.
GMHBA.
Yes.
Yeah, I think most people say the Goomba Stadium just because that's sort of how it sounds. Personally, I think that Geelong should have to change their song every time they change the stadium name, because their song has Down at Cardinia Park in it, and I think it would be much better if they had to use the stadium name in there.
Agree to disagree on that one.
I think a few people would agree to disagree on that one. Well, we're digressing away from what is about to unfold. The calm before the storm, as we've called it a couple of times. We've got a full grid of 16 cars in this GT3 competition. Good to see a couple of drivers practicing pit entries and pit stops and pit exit, because that's one thing that's going to be rather interesting in tonight's proceedings, is where the pit exit actually comes out. It actually comes out on the exit of turn number 2. So if we can follow, here's Jaden Draper. He's going through turn 1. I mean, you can just see on the inside of the track there. There is the pit lane exit, and where it feeds out is, as you can see, Jamie Snow exiting, is actually a little bit of a tricky spot. It's if the drivers are not looking a bit further left of the apex, they won't see any cars coming out until it's too late, especially when they're trying to move the car across to the left-hand side of the track to take turn 3. It could end up in a bit of a disaster, so some communication there would not probably go too far astray.
So it seems that we may be having a standing start instead of a rolling start for this race due to the technical issues, from what I'm seeing.
All right,
that is true.
Okay, so we've had some issues with the safety car, have we?
No, it's my Daddy server app on the gaming computer. It's just randomly, once I click to launch the session, it's just resetting a couple of settings.
Okay, so...
Which is also why we had the hour-long qualifying session.
All right.
Changing both of them.
So we're still going to have the formation lap, or are we going to just have a straight standing start?
Formation standing.
Formation standing. So a little something different compared to what we're used to. Viewers of the broadcast will be aware that we've had a rolling start for some time. And in actual fact, I think probably the standing start might not be too bad in this situation.
It could well be the smoothest start we have. And this fact, Greg Turner has offered a free beer to anyone who can manage to pick up a penalty off the start.
Well, somehow I don't think that'll actually... it'll be interesting how that comes to be.
It'll be impressive if someone does manage it, though.
It could be quite expensive if he's not careful.
Everyone jumps the start. I guess he's lucky that it's a slightly quieter field than it usually is. For GT3, we're normally over 20, aren't we?
Yeah, we're normally around the 20 back. Actually, we just had Philip Boat come into the server as well, so we're up to 17. So we normally average around sort of 17 to 20 cars. Well, there it is. Top left-hand corner of your screen, 2 hours on the clock as we get ready to sort ourselves out here for the final round of GT3. Going to be sad when it goes. It's going to be replaced by the WEC, or World Endurance Championship of AMS Australia, in a couple of weeks. We'll fill you in about that at the end of tonight's proceedings. But for now, we've got 2 hours of GT3 racing and a championship, overall champion to decide. And on top of that, a Pro B and Pro Am championships to decide as well. So we'll try and keep you posted a bit throughout the race as to how those championships are progressing. But first and foremost, we've got to get this field away. Waiting on all the cars to grid up.
While we wait, there was one thing I was very surprised by during qualifying, which is the highest qualifying Mercedes is in 9th place.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too, because it's not very much a power track, so the Mercedes really can't exercise their power. But we're away. Bagsy, let's hit the order.
Alright, in first place we have Andy Simpson with a stunning pole time. He did quite a good job to put his Audi up there. Second place, Matt Webb in the Nismo Nissan GTR. An excellent lap right at the death that got him up in second. Third place, Jaden Draper is currently off the track for some reason. I'm not sure.
I think he may have had a bit of a... I think he may have... I saw it happen. He had a bit of a drop or something happened to him, but he's off the circuit at the minute. But we'll come back to his plight in a minute.
Soon, Anthony Graham in fourth in the first Ferrari. Fifth place is Jorik van Dasselaar. He has had an excellent run in the previous few races, and that McLaren up in fifth. Sixth place, Brendan Foley with a very strong qualifying. He sort of flew under the radar a little bit there, but being ahead of the current championship leader, Lewis Sweating, he's definitely coming into his own. Championship leader Lewis Sweating, he is hoping for an event-free race today and get to take that Lamborghini to the win and championship victory. Jamie Snow has come back after he's been here the last couple of weeks, but an absence in the middle of the season, and he'll be looking for some good points to try and move up into the top 10 in the championship. Or sorry, the top 5 in the championship. Greg Taro in 9th, as Scruff said earlier, the first Mercedes. 10th, Brock Harvey, our other main championship contender. He needs to beat Lewis Wedding by 3 points to win. Nangle in 11th. He is also a championship contender, but needs a lot to go his way. 12th, Matt Schwass in the yellow and black Ferrari. 13th, Brendan Ross in the red Ferrari. 14th, David Keane in the Kino Aston Martin. 15th is Luke Joyner. 16th is Andy. 17th, Philip Boak. And that is your field. Jane Draper has not made it to the start.
No,
so
Jaden Draper
Snow was spun out of the last corner too.
Yeah, he did. Jamie Snow a little bit tardy, but that's a heartbreak for Jaden Draper. Something's happened to him, and he's not taking his position on the left of your screen there.
The game, so I believe that is technical issues for Jaden Draper. Such a shame after a strong qualifier.
Yeah, very shame for him, and we're just waiting on everyone to address themselves here. Brock Harvey slightly out of position, just backing up. There's a gap there at the back in front of Luke Joyner. I was wondering if someone should actually be there or if those cars are a bit too far forward. Nope. Everyone's in order. Starter sets the lights off, and we are racing. Andy has been given a penalty, and Lewis Wedding looked like he got a very tardy start. One of the Mercedes cars looks like it might have given him a tap off the start line as well. So, as we said before, Lewis getting all sorts of crop. They're 3 and 4 wide in the back at turn number 1 and 2. Foley's made an awesome start. He's up to 3rd. He started 6th on the grid. He's now up underneath up behind Matt Webb. And then we've got Anthony Graham battling away here with Van Dassler for 4th and 5th. Harvey's off the road. Lewis Wedding slipped all the way back. Jamie Snow's had a good start as well, but start of the race so far, Brenton Foley has moved from 6th to 3rd. And Matt Schwass is now making a move here on the inside of Greg Turra. So Turra on the outside here of turn number 5 manages to hold on. But that Ferrari is very, very quick, and he'll settle in for the moment as we head up to the corkscrew for the first time.
Yeah, it was a terrible start for Wedding.
Sorry. Actually, Wedding was just coming through on Luke Joyner through the very difficult turn 5, and that sent Luke off the track with no contact turn 2.
It was a terrible start for Lewis Wedding. He dropped down. He was down 5 or 6 places at one point. He's only 3 places down now. He was lucky. Brock Harvey would have been absolutely licking his lips getting past Wedding after Wedding had that atrocious start, and then goes off the track at turn 3. So he's copped that one up a little bit as he goes up the inside. Oh, he has contact with Boak. Boak turned in on him a little bit there. That may have caused damage to Brock Harvey there.
Yeah, well, we'll keep an eye on that. But in the meantime, Turra monstering the back of Jamie Snow's Ferrari for 6th place, but has to pull it up on the brakes a little bit earlier than the Ferrari because that Mercedes is quick in a straight line. It's only got one spot where it can really use it, and that's down the front straight through turn 1 and down to the turn 2 hairpin. So your leader is Andy Simpson, pursued by Brenton Foley now, who's gotten past Matt Webb for 2nd place. Geez, Foley's on one hell of a march. Matt Webb settles into 3rd, Van Dassler is 4th, and Graham is 5th, just ahead of Snow and Turra here in the middle of the pack as they head through turn 5 and now begin the climb again.
Just getting word from the pit lane that Matt Webb has used all his tyres in practice and qualifying. So his set that he's on at the moment is a fresh set, but he won't have any fresh sets to change onto during the race.
Wow. That is something we weren't expecting to hear. So tyre management already becoming an issue.
We have had a few drivers that have been comfortably able to double stint their tyres through the series though, so it may not be quite as bad as it seems for him, but to use all of your tyres through practice and qualifying, quite an effort.
Yeah, it's a little bit unheard of. Oh, and Turra's gone very, very deep, and he cedes place to Schwass, and Schwass went deep as well, and that's got caught Nangle up as well by surprise, and Wedding has had to go on the inside of Matt Schwass as well.
As Brock Harvey's made his way back up into 11th as well, I just saw him in the background making up a couple positions. As we have a yellow flag in the first sector.
That's Andy.
Yeah, and he's exiting the pit lane here, and he manages to do it safely. And all these guys manage to get through and get their car moved over to take turn number 3. There was a bit of a concertina effect at the last turn there, and it's changed the order a bit. So Jamie Snow's gotten away. Tara's lost a position to Nangle. Wedding has gained a position over Schwass. So Wedding down 2 spots from where he started, and currently in 9th, and going to have a bit of work to do to keep that perfect winning record of when he enters and completes the races, he wins them. And Brock Harvey is 11th at the moment, and just sitting off the back of this pack at the moment. He's a couple seconds.
Tara's having to go up the inside into the corkscrew on Greg Nangle.
Yeah, that's a brave move there, and Nangle gave him the space, which was good. So Tara gets back to 7th, which is where he was before it all kicked off at turn 11 on the last lap. And Nangle's coming under threat here from Lewis Wedding, and Matt Schwass is not out of this battle either yet. As Andy Simpson sets the quickest lap of a 1:22.5, and Wedding's very close to the back of that Mercedes, but is he close enough to have a go into turn number 2? Well,
He's
Nagle's
giving
having a go.
Angle a
Nagle's
little-
having a go at Tara here. He's going to have a go at Tara. Tara's going to have to go defensive, and they both. Oh, geez, they pull it up, and the gap between those two cars stayed absolutely identical all the way down to turn number 2. And this is a very tasty 4-car battle here at the moment.
Looked like Wedding gave Nangle just a little bit of a nudge into that last corner, which looks like that's what actually set the cars in line for the whole way down the straight, because the gap didn't really change after that little bit of contact.
Tars has taken a little bit of exit curb there off of turn 5, a bit too much, so of turn 4, a bit too much curb, and kicked up a bit of dust, and that lets Nangle through, and it also lets Wedding through as well. So Wedding's on the inside here for turn 6, and he'll have the high ground, and shoots away very, very quickly. And as you can see from the helicopter shot, Tara being hung out to dry on the outside, and that's given incentive to Matt Schwass, and that's a bit cheeky from Greg Tara. He really closed down on Schwass very, very hard, and Schwass flashed the lights in very, very upset fashion to say, hey, I'm here and you crowded me out, and I probably have a right to feel aggrieved there a little bit, Matt Schwass, because you had a good run on him, and Tuz should have given him the room, and Tuz knows better.
Biggest thing here is that Nangle is a bit of a cork in the bottle at the moment. He's 4 seconds down on Yorit, who's next up the road, but all this battling has done means that Brock Harvey is now part of this train. It's now a 6-car train all the way back down, a 5-car train down to Brock Harvey, but Philip Boak in 12th is not far off it. So expect Brock Harvey to start trying to get through these guys and up towards Wedding.
Oh, Nangle had a moment. Yeah, Nangle had a moment off of turn 2, and that lets Wedding through, and Wedding gets back to where he started now. So, and that's what Wedding wanted. That was the important thing for him, is he needed to clear those Mercedes as quickly as he could after having that horrible start, because with Harvey not that far behind him, this puts 3 cars between Wedding and his nearest championship rival. There's a change of position. All the Mercedes are squabbling again. Let's have a look. And this time Tara's back on the inside of Nangle, and Nangle's now got a Ferrari for company and Matt Schwass, and Harvey's just looking at these guys going, this is way too early in the race, guys. What are you bloody doing?
I think Harvey is actually always Tara and Nangle get into each other.
Yeah, they did. Nangle gave him
Tara a bit of a bump.
Yeah, he did. He gave him a bit of a bump.
Harvey's probably hoping these guys battle even more and take each other out, so he can just have a nice, easy drive on past and not have to worry about actually passing them.
Yeah, Boak's closing in on the back of this lot as well now. As you said before, Bagsy, he wasn't that far away. Harvey's caught right up to the back of the train, and now it's going to be Boak if they're not careful. These Mercedes cars are effectively being a cork in the champagne bottle here, because they're slowing everybody up, and if you look ahead, you can see that Wedding has taken off away from this battle. So as soon as Wedding's cleared the 2 AMG Mercedes, he's already pulled at least a second on this field.
Interestingly, he's not really gaining on Jamie Snow and Yorit ahead, so that's he might be trying to fuel save a little bit, because we know he's quite good at fuel saving and still maintaining pace.
Tara kicks up a bit of dirt there at turn 3 again, and that compromises him for 4, but he manages to hang on, and he kicks up a bit of dirt again at turn 4, and that's what caused the cars to get past last time, but they're not close enough to capitalise this time around. And look at them all. Look how close our line of stern Andy getting out of the way on the run up to turn number 6, and a little bit awkward there, but he manages to stay off the line. So
looks like Brock Harvey might have run Schwass into the corkscrew.
Yeah, we're watching here. So Harvey, and he thought about it, and he pulled it up heavy under brakes as well. Good driving by Brock Harvey.
The door there.
Yeah,
firm but fair for sure.
Very, very fair. And Harvey needs to think about what he's going to do next. He's he's lost 1 position from where he started, Brock Harvey, so Matt Schwass currently occupies that position where he started. And this will be his next opportunity. Got a good launch. He got a very good launch off of the last turn here, Brock Harvey, and this is an easy job. He's got the inside line on Matt Schwass here, and he'll have the high ground. Oh, very, very, bit of a hip and shoulder there, but he has the high ground for turn number 2, and very nicely done. He got an excellent launch off of the final turn, Brock Harvey. We were watching him all the way, and he was quite well positioned very, very early in the piece for turn number 2, as Schwass has a moment and just drops off the back a little bit more. So for Brock Harvey, next point of interest is Greg Nangle.
It was a bit rude from Schwass there. He didn't really give Brock the room on the inside, where we can see that there's that painted line between the pits and the actual main straight and main track. and he sort of pushed him right onto that and through the cones that are set up there. So a bit rude for Matt Schloss there. Didn't really leave the car's width, unfortunately.
No, he didn't.
So, interesting little tidbit. Lewis Wedding, car 89, is currently on our live championship standings on 89 points. So, thanks to Stairs down the pit lane for that little tidbit.
Yep.
It's imagine if he wins the championship on 89 points. I'm sure he'd be happy with that, but he'd probably much rather win it with a win.
Certainly would.
Matt Schwartz has lost a position to Phil Boak as well, and all that.
Yeah, he has too. We've just been watching on the telecast. You're absolutely right. So Matt Schwartz has made a mistake somewhere, and Boak's actually doing quite nicely in that BMW. He's actually trying to hang on to Brock Harvey here as Harvey tries to chase down Nangle, but Nangle and Tara have just skipped away. But in actual fact, they've caught back up to Lewis Wedding. So I'm wondering what's going on here. Wedding's only got 0.6 of a second on the pair of Mercedes cars behind him. So I'm wondering whether or not Wedding's gone into some sort of race management mode, like we saw him at Road America. He went and extended the life of his tyres quite substantially and actually came out winning that race. So I'm wondering whether he's already thinking about playing the long game here.
I think in the current circumstances as well, with him being in front of Brock Harvey, that is just the best approach regardless.
Well, it might
be he's trying to extend the fuel of the tyres, or if he's just trying to make sure he makes it to the end of the race.
Well, Tara had a little bit of a look at him on the run up to turn 6, but he wasn't close enough for a move. But if he is thinking about playing that,
mistake. He's dropped a place on Philip Boak.
Yeah, we just cut away from Harvey as well to have a look at what was happening with Wedding and Co up front. So Harvey looks like he's made a mistake somewhere on the back side of the circuit. There he is. So let's see if we can actually go up and see what happened. Well, here he is.
While you're doing that,
yeah, he went wide at turn 6. He went very wide at turn 6, and that's what it was. It wasn't too bad, but it was enough to let Boak through. So that's where Harvey lost his what was 10th place, and is now back to 11th.
While you guys were doing that, Wedding and Tara have started to stretch the gap behind to Greg Nangle as well. That's now up to 1.3 seconds between Tara and Nangle.
We're hearing that Wedding is almost certainly fuel saving, and a quick look at his onboard, he's definitely not being. As he cuts off Greg.
He's gone very wide there off of turn 3 as well. So as much as he's trying to fuel save, he's driving in his mirrors as well, and he doesn't want to be doing that, especially if he's trying to fuel save. He just needs to keep his head down, manage his own race.
I know that we did criticise him slightly at Road America for fuel saving so much and sort of backing up people behind him, but he did end up winning that race. So it's hard to criticise too much, although some things did fall his way for that to happen. But you just wonder if he's just thinking about the championship in this scenario, if he's better off just letting these people through if he's going to fuel save this much.
Yeah, but he probably doesn't realise that Brock Harvey's dropped off the back of this train as well, and he doesn't want to be obviously dropping any positions to Brock, otherwise that ultimately means more points that he has to make up to stay ahead in the championship. And,
I know Lewis Wedding as well as I think I do. He knows exactly how far behind Brock Harvey is.
Yeah, there was a moment for Nangle there off of the last turn as well, but thankfully for the chasing cars behind Boak and Harvey, they weren't close enough to make an impression on him. So he'll continue on in 9th. We should turn our attention to what's going on up the front of the field, and that's Andy Simpson. And he's been going about his business rather nicely from pole position, and he's got a 5 and a bit second advantage on Brenton Foley, who is up 4 places from where he started and doing rather nicely, gents. Brenton Foley, great job so far.
He's doing a fantastic job.
He had a cracker of a start, and he's backed it up by having the pace as well over some of the people who were much faster than him in qualifying, that being Matt Webb, Anthony Graham, and Jorrit van Dasselaar. He's doing quite a good job as he comes up to Andy in a slightly awkward place. But he's definitely, I think, the most improved driver of the season. He started off, he's Pro B now, but he did start off as he goes wide at Pro-Am.
Sorry to cut you off. I believe Lewis Wedding has significantly upped his pace. The gap to Jamie Snow is now under 3 seconds, and he's over a second in front of Greg Tara.
I think that may have been a mistake from Jamie Snow, because Jamie Snow was right up the back of Jorrit, and he's now dropped. Is now a fair way away.
More than likely a mistake then. But coming back to your point about Brenton Foley, Bagsy, you're absolutely right. He's shown signs of great pace, and the first sign we saw of him was at Suzuka. where he did very, very well, but ultimately strategy, the pit strategy is what caused him to drop out of position there. And after the pit stop, what happened was he fell down the field. He actually had a couple of drive-throughs as well, so not a great result there for him. But that was the first signs that we saw that he had some pace, and when he was promoted to Pro B, he certainly done his promotion quite, or justified his promotion by driving very, very well, and right now, no exception.
We snapped him up very quickly to get him into the Farcanal Racing Corolla for the Touring Car Series, and he's... I can't remember the exact positions at the moment, but he's been up the front in all of the 4 races we've had in that so far. And he does very well in cars that don't rely too well on downforce. He does struggle when downforce comes in.
Well, he's coming down to turn number 11 right now to complete his 11th lap. And we're only a quarter of an hour into this 2-hour finale. And 24.5 there from Brenton Foley that time around. So he's just running a race on his own at the moment. He's losing time to Andy Simpson, but not losing it hand over fist. I mean, he's losing maybe a half a second to 3/4 of a second a lap, but he's just running his own race, and he's not in direct competition with Andy. And he's maintaining the gap to Matt Webb behind him. So, doing very, very well. Well, let's return to the battle down the field, though.
I won't praise more on it. We don't want to give him the commentator's curse anyway.
No.
We've got battle for 5th place is heating up now. Jameson's caught back up to Yorit, and Wedding has decided he wants to join the party for 5th place, and is starting to appear quite large in Jamie Snow's mirrors.
Yeah, there's a little 3-car train there, so Van Dassela, Heads, Snow and Wedding. Tara and Nangle are trying to close in as well, and Boak and Harvey are trying to close in the back of that. So we've got a little 3-car battle and a little 4-car battle, and if it keeps up for much longer, we could wind up with a 7-car battle, which will be very, very interesting. And that'll include all 3 contenders for the title.
Yeah, you see, Brock Harvey's actually dropped off a bit from Philip Boak now. He was getting a bit close, so I'm not sure if he's maybe had a slight error there. But as Boak has gone very wide, he's off the track.
Yeah, he was on the back of Nangle for a little bit as well. We just saw he's very close. And Harvey's now scooted through while Boak is off the road. Matt Schwass hasn't been able to capitalise on Boak's misfortune going off-road, but he's only a second behind, so that allows Brock Harvey back through. And in the distance he can see the rear wing of Nangle's Mercedes, and he'll be wanting to hunt him down again very quick. Harvey's last lap at 23.9, so not that far off his best, so just doing consistent pace, and you can see there his best is a 23.8, and his last lap around was a 23.9, so that's the kind of pace he wants to be doing. He just wants to focus in on that class win, as he likes to call it. Doing a good job of that with where he is in the running order right now. Lewis Wedding a couple of positions further up the road. At this stage, would comfortably have overall honours, and the top 3 would remain as is. But we've still got a long way to go for these positions to all be settled.
Yeah, we're only just past 1/8 distance in this race, so we've still got, as you said, quite a long way to go. We're on lap 13 at the moment, and we're expecting, at least from the info we've got, Matt Webb's fuel burn. We're expecting him in at about lap 26. So we're assuming that most other people are around there. We know we've seen Lewis Wedding going a bit slower at times, so maybe he'll be able to add an extra lap or 2 to that. We are also thinking that without safety car intervention, they may have to stop as many as 3 times, being a 2-hour race. And approximately 80-ish laps.
Yeah, there's a lot of point and squirt on this circuit as well. You get through the turn and you've got to get hard on the gas. It's like turn out of the last turn. You put your foot down hard. You come out of the turn 2 that we're approaching now as we look where Nangle is chasing Tara. So as soon as you come through this turn here, you've got to get on the gas again. Then you've got to slow down. Then you've got to squirt it again. So you're always using fuel, especially in the high traction zones. And it's very, very difficult to fuel save, and Lewis Wedding's a master of it. We've seen him do it plenty of times before, but it is very difficult to fuel save around here, and the elevation change also makes it a fuel saving a challenge as well.
Yeah, really, sort of your only fuel saving chance is lifting up early into the first corner and potentially into the corkscrew as well, but you've got to be a bit careful doing that.
Yeah, you've got to pick the right time to lift and coast if you're going to do it up at the corkscrew. Well, what we were hoping for a train to form is sort of strung out a little bit now, as Andy's... Oh, that's a bit of a dangerous spot to be allowing an overtake, and that's very, very dangerous as an Angle tries to negotiate the corkscrew with a Porsche in the way.
Yeah, he sort of added a bit of an extra kink to the corkscrew there for poor Greg Nangle.
Yeah, turn 8A all of a sudden became 8B with an Andy in the way.
Coming through there when you've got a significant amount of pace over the car in front is utterly terrifying for Matt, so it would have been quite a worry, especially in a racing situation for Greg coming through there. I've only had that during qualifying. Unfortunately, they got out of the way very quickly.
Now, Jorrit van Desselaer has kicked away here from Jamie Snow, so he's got nice little gaps. So Jamie's still under pressure from Lewis Wedding, though.
Yeah, it's Jamie Snow's. Yeah, that gap has opened up a bit as Wedding goes quite wide behind Jamie Snow there. It's going to be an interesting battle to see how these guys go, and Greg Taro is looking to get involved as well. He hasn't let Wedding get very far away from him, so we keep waiting for this train to form, and hopefully it will form at some point because it's going to be very exciting seeing these guys go hammer and tongs.
It looks to me as though at the moment they are trying to play it safe a little bit.
Oh,
As
Jamie Snow
has-
almost loses it into the corkscrew. Jeez, that cost him a lot of time.
And Matt Webb's lost it off the corkscrew as well, so that's very, very interesting. We're watching Snow, and I was busy blowing my nose and had to stop because Matt Webb has spun out of what was third place, and what's going on with Matt Webb? We're not 100% sure, but
he was waiting so he wouldn't run into anyone else. It was a very poor spot to go off, so he good awareness there. He waited. He's lost a lot of positions.
Yeah, he certainly has.
But it was very smart to wait there and not let and not cause an incident.
Well, thankfully he was off the racing line, and Andy, I think, looks like he's coming out of the pits as well. So he's toured the lane a couple of times here, Andy, in the early going, at least twice. So probably most likely damage repaired. It certainly wouldn't be a scheduled stop, but letting all the other cars go past. But unfortunately, we haven't got the ability to go and see what happened to Matt Webb because we came up so suddenly. But luckily, when he spun to what would be the outside of the track, and that's off the racing line.
Yeah, outside of the track, inside of the corner. Maybe he got in the power a bit too early, potentially. That's really the only reason I could think about losing there, or potentially too much curb.
I dare say it's probably going to be too much curb because these cars do have quite a decent degree of traction control on them, so I would dare say it's probably just a little bit too much curb through that particular turn. But Wedding's still doing his best to apply the blowtorch to the back of the Le Mans Ferrari.
Just apparently, Webb was quite unhappy over the radio about his car. He's not sure why the car spun there, but let's just say he described it with a couple of expletives as, "Oh, Jorrit van Desselaer's gone round in the final corner. He does a nice little loop and brings it back, but that's cost him 3 places. That is not ideal for poor old Jorrit."
No, not ideal. Well, we definitely can have a look at a replay of that one. Well, here he is. Well, he was chasing Anthony Graham, which at the time was for third place. Coming into the last turn here, gassed it up a bit too much off the exit curb. So, thankfully, when he looped it around, he didn't wallop the wall. He was very, very close to walloping the pit wall, and if he had done that, could have lost a rear wing in the process. So, very, very lucky boy. And he now finds himself, he now finds himself back down in 7th place.
Did quite a good job to not lose as many places as he did there, to be honest. It could have gone much worse. He was quick thinking. He knew he wasn't going to spin it into someone else's way either, so good work.
No, very good work. Well, for Lewis Wedding, here he is.
Another gift there.
Yeah, he certainly has. Up to 5th now.
I'm having some technical difficulties. Can't actually see the gaps between the cars, but a podium is definitely not out of question for Lewis. After that horrible start that you had to this race.
If you are having technical difficulties, you like others should, if you want, you can follow this race at Live Races, amsoz.liveraces.com.
I was just about to get the plug in there too, Bagsy.
So yeah, feel free to go there and you can see what we see in terms of timing and track map and all that. It's good to see where drivers are in terms of their gaps to other drivers and when they're seeing their fastest laps.
Well, certainly is. Well, lap 18 is the lap that we're on at the moment. We're nearly 25 minutes into this 2-hour race, and still yet to see the leaders come in for some stops. We're trying to work out on the fuel mileage roughly how far these guys can go. I think pit reporter Stairs has had some input on that at some point earlier in the evening. We're just going to go have a look and see what's going on here. So the projection is we'll probably start to see people in around the lap 25-26 mark, losing Matt Webb's projections as a guideline. So we're expecting him around lap 26. So we'd expect some of the other cars around that particular mark. So it's only a half a dozen laps away, or half a dozen to 8 laps away from where the pit window should open, and we'll see what happens around that time. We've obviously seen Andy a couple in the pits a few times, so hopefully we'll see some changes for position with people taking different strategies.
The general rule of thumb with the fuel throughout this series across the whole field has been it's about 30 minutes when you're not fuel saving, not on quality laps, but when you're not fuel saving, a tank will last about 30 minutes. Obviously, given that some tracks are more on throttle, more on brake, and some longer, some shorter, it does vary a bit, but it's about 30 minutes.
Yaret's had an issue into the final corner again. He's got Greg Nangle right on his tail. Greg Nangle almost losing it coming into the second corner.
Yeah, there was also a little bit of an issue, I think, for Lewis Wedding. He had to check up as Jamie Snow went very, very defensive and very, very shallow into the last turn as well. So that's put Tara all over the back of Wedding, who a little while ago was all over the back of Jamie Snow. Now they head up towards turn number 5. Great helicopter shot here, thanks to a helicopter pilot from the Short Shift podcast. Now under the bridge for turn 6 as Wedding pursued by Tara up the hill toward the corkscrew, the famous corkscrew. Interesting. The helicopter. Go on, Maxie. Yeah, just that interesting line that some of the guys are taking through the corkscrew. Some opting to go a bit shallower, and some guys opting to take a bit more of a wider line through the corkscrew, the more traditional line.
Yeah, I was going to say, the helicopter shots of this track make it seem like a much easier track than it actually is. It's sort of, it does look like it's very flowing and easy to drive, but there is a lot
Tara in. Sorry to cut you off, Bagsy. Greg Tara in the Mercedes, stopping at the end of lap 19. So first man to blink. There he is.
That's very interesting for Tara to be in so early. Is this a strategic thing? Does he think that there's not going to be any safety cars? Because if he, by stopping now, I think that means he can go 2 stops to the end, if I'm correct.
Has he done his homework? Has he looked at his homework and gone, well, maybe I can come in early, and should there be a late safety car, I don't have to stop, or I don't have to come in with the rest of them. So that'll get the others thinking.
The problem we'll have is if he goes a lap down here, that's not ideal for him. It's a much shorter lap than some of the other races we've had 2-hour races at.
Well, it'll be interesting. So we're just watching Matt Webb here. So he's in 10th place after that spin off the exit of the corkscrew. Let's find our race leader. Here he is. Off of the last turn. Now, where's Tara? Tara's out of the pits. And there he is there. So now he's on the inside. So this will be interesting. So Simpson down to the last turn, and he has lapped Tara. He's lapped Luke Joyner as well, so, and not that far away from lapping David Keane. So you were correct, Bagsy. The risk of going a lap down to the race leader was there, and Tara has gone a lap down. He's the first lap down cars.
Tara wasn't too far away from Nangle, Van Dasselaar, and Wedding, as well as Jamie Snow. So they're all going to have to be very careful about if they pit before Simpson and there's a safety car, they may end up a lap down also, and that is not what you want.
Yeah, well, Keane's just gone a lap down as well to the race leader, getting out of the way, but the man behind him, Tara, is actually is also a lap down, but it's 4 positions, so Keane doesn't have to give him any right of way. Eddie Simpson's not been pulling the gap out as he has been in previous laps. Like we looked a couple of, probably about 10 minutes ago, and it was about 6.5 seconds, and it's still 6.5 seconds, so credit to Brendan Foley behind him. He's holding that gap.
It does look like on my time history he has just lapped a couple cars, so that may be part of the reason why that gap has either come down or not.
He slipped past them very, very easily, though. We've been watching him, and he got past Tara off the pit exit, and he got past Keno very, very easily as well. So traffic not being very much a problem.
Yeah, it may have just been a small error of some sort, but I think he might have just had a scruffy lap somewhere along the line, and because it definitely seems like he has the pace on Brenton Foley, albeit not as much as we would have thought he would have had.
No, certainly not. Well, the gap's starting to go up again now, so maybe a scruffy lap here or there, but we'll see how that pans out. Back to you, Scruff.
Harvey's in.
Well, Harvey in as well. So first the championship contenders. Let's see if we can find him. Yeah, you're right, Bagsy. Here he is. So he's stopping as well. So
like he's in as well.
yeah, and let's have a look through the standings. If we can get our thing to scroll properly. You're right. Yorick Van Dasselaar is also in the pits. So lap 19 is where it all kicked off, and it was kicked off by Turra. Now those guys potentially going to go a lap down as well. So where's Andy Simpson? Here he is. He's come off of the second last turn now, and he's going to put these guys a lap down as well at this pace.
He's still stationary.
Yeah, so yeah, we can see they're both stationary. I think as Simpson slides it off the last turn, and he puts them both
ahead of them too, both of them.
Simpson set to 23.5 that time around, and down to the first turn, and he has put them both a lap down.
He set the fastest lap of the race so far while he was at it.
And while you're at it, you're right, Bagsy. It looks like Turra is, and yeah, Turra's gotten past the pair of them. So that's a win for Turra. The undercut for Turra has actually worked rather nicely for him there because he was behind Van Dasselaar for a little while, and he's come out actually ahead. So good job there.
Turra, Van Dasselaar and Harvey all changed tyres. Turra's also stopped for 42 seconds as well, so that's pretty much a full fill and tyres there.
Got Lewis Wedding is catching slowly back up to Jamie Snow. I may slightly just be looking at Lewis' camera today, given the championship situation.
You're going for Madbird vision.
Well, I am always worried that he is hiding somewhere in the room, so I thought, why not?
And the race leader's in. So Andy Simpson on lap 23 comes into the pits, so that will allow the lapped cars to gain their lap back. And here they all come. And that actually promotes Brenton Foley through to the lead. And he leads Andy Simpson, or Andy Simpson stationary, but he leads Anthony Graham by 15 seconds. So Foley doing some nice laps. And let's see how far he can go. But props to Brenton Foley for leading a lap. He's led a couple of laps, I think, over the course of the GT3 season.
Yeah, led some at Road America.
He led some at Road America. But he's got that Ferrari going rather nicely at the moment, on for a nice podium finish if he keeps this up. Actually, looking down the order too, Jamie Snow's moved through, Wedding's moved through, Nangle, Boak and Coavor moved through as Andy Simpson is stationary in the pits.
He's on his way again.
So the race
come out in 9th place.
Oh, and there's the commentator's curse. Foley goes wide at turn 6 on the run up the hill. And that gives the one of the McLarens an interesting run up the inside. That'll be Van Dasselaar, I think. And it is getting a lap back.
Bit cheeky there from Van Dasselaar.
Little bit cheeky. But it all counts. He had the pace. Foley made the mistake. And he got going. So Foley still leads. And Foley going to go around for another lap as we see David Keane pull into the pits there. Andy stopped at the exit of... on the entrance to turn 11. Now, I don't know if that's stopping to let people through, but that's an interesting spot to stop. But you don't want to stop on track. You've got to keep moving, son. Foley's last lap around was a 26, so 1 minute 26, and that was because of his mistake that he made up there.
In the pits, so Wedding is... I'm not sure if released is the right word, but Wedding is certainly on his way.
Yeah, he's got clear track ahead of him now, Lewis Wedding.
Nangle in as well.
Nangle in too. So the order all starting to shake themselves out. Let's have a look. Anthony Graham is the man second place in the other Ferraris. It's a Ferrari 1-2 at the moment. Oh, just managed to slice in front of Andy there for turn number 3. So
after all these pit stops shake out, we'll give everyone a rundown of the championship standings. as they are.
Yeah, I think that'll be a rather good idea to see where everybody's positioned as a result of all of that, and we'll keep you abreast as to what's going on.
Just had a little bit of a moment under braking turn 1 from Wedding as well, so maybe his tyres aren't quite healthy as he'd hoped that they were.
Well, we're just watching him on screen here at the moment, and he's currently...
You said a few people had changed tyres, so I'm wondering if Deg here is significantly worse than at previous tracks.
He's gone a little bit wide at turn 6 as well, Wedding, but it wasn't too bad. He didn't hurt his speed too badly up the hill. But I think
Foley's in the pits.
And I think Graham probably going to follow him, I would imagine, as well, because Wedding's gaining time on Graham hand over fist, on this lap especially, as Graham's a couple of corners further up the road. And no, Anthony Graham goes through for another lap. So that's interesting, considering the gap is coming down quite substantially between him and Lewis Wedding. So Graham will lead a lap. Foley in the pits. Wedding promoted through to second now. And Foley waiting there. Philip Boak coming in as well. So stops shaking out. Matt Webb. Now, has Matt Webb stopped, guys? Because I think he might, if he's still recovering, he's back up to third.
Boak's had a slight issue coming into his pit.
Yeah, you can see it back there. He couldn't get it stopped right. So that's a rather interesting moment, which we should probably take a look at. So here's his pit entry. All looks kosher and according to plan. And coming down the pit lane. And couldn't get stopped in time. And that's what we call angle parking.
It's quite a good park if that was a parking location, but unfortunately it's not. Brent Foley's come out of the pits and he has ended up 17 seconds down on Andy Simpson. So he's lost a lot of time in all that.
Yeah.
He was only 6 seconds down when the pit stop started shaking out, so that's not gone well for Brenton.
No, he did have the lap before his in-lap, he did have a 4-second differential on his lap time by a little mistake that he made off the exit of turn 6 as well. So he's still behind Andy Simpson though. So Graham in, Wedding and Webb yet to stop. So it's a net second place at the moment for Foley, depending on what happens with Wedding and Webb ahead. Let's have a look. Wedding going through for a lap. So now Wedding leads a lap. So that makes about half a dozen cars, or close enough to half a dozen cars that have led a lap. So Simpson's led a lap. Foley's led a lap. Graham's led a lap. And now Wedding has led a lap. So well, that makes...
Matt Webb is in the pits.
That makes 4. So Matt Webb now stops. So all the top runners have now stopped, bar Lewis Wedding. So let's see how far he goes. Andy Simpson's done a 22.3 and the quickest lap of the race on fresh rubber. So obviously fresh rubber is the go. What was Wedding's lap time the last time around? It was a 23.6. So it's not too bad from Lewis Wedding. It's kind of the 23s is the pace you want to be doing. So his tyres aren't in too bad a nick if he's able to do mid-23s. As he heads up the hill now on lap 27. So he has managed to make this fuel work for him. We were expecting everyone to be in around 26. Well, Matt Webb coming in on 26. The prediction from our pit reporter stairs was spot on the money. It's a matter of how far Wedding can go.
A 19-second gap on Andy Simpson at the moment. But it seems like he might be pushing to do 2 stops instead of 3. And if he can do that, well, he's in the box seat at the moment. His strategy will be pretty good. But I'd say he needs to make it at least 2 more laps to be able to do it.
Yeah, well, Andy Simpson's eating into his lead, but that won't be concerning Wedding, as Wedding does 24.7 that time around. So that was a bit off pace. The question for Wedding is, where does he come out relative to everybody else? Because Foley's only 40 seconds behind him. Then you got Turra is 45 seconds, Graham 50 seconds, and Van Dassler is 54. And Jamie Snow 56, so that's the kind of area he'll be targeting, coming in around 4th, 5th place, and that will get to leapfrog Jamie Snow. But he's got to be able to keep his base up, because all those guys behind him have all stopped and got fresh rubber.
We know that the average pit stop time is anywhere from 50 seconds to a minute 10, depending on how much fuel you put in and if you change tyres. They'll almost certainly have to change tyres at every stop. So because of the fact that it's such a tyre limited circuit in comparison to fuel, which is disadvantaging people like Matt Webb who can go longer on fuel because their tyres just give up on them. So we'll see what happens, but I think if Wedding would pit this lap, I think he'd come out just behind Jamie Snow and Greg Nangle possibly just ahead of Brock Harvey.
Yeah, well, that's where it's at. He's just probably pacing himself to work out where he needs to stop. But he goes another lap to complete lap 28. And we're almost 40 minutes in here, so Wedding being able to make it at least 40 minutes on a tank of fuel is quite good. So if you can go, as you said, Bagsy, go another lap or two, he potentially can do this in 2 stops.
I think he'll be pitting this lap.
Yeah, it looks
I
like he
think
might be. The
30
cog
laps, you can go any further than that.
looks like that he might be right there. The cog in the left side of your screen above the number 1 for position 1 says that he is looking at potentially stopping this lap, or at least he's telling his pit crew that he wants to stop. It's a matter of what he stops for and for how long. But we suspect...
Just watching him over the last couple of laps, he has had a few little twitches under braking and acceleration as well, so
Yep.
he's not losing much time if his tyres are suffering, but they are becoming more difficult for him to drive
Yeah.
on.
Well,
He's put a couple
his last
gravel
2 laps have been in the 24s, a 24.7 and a 24.3. It'd be interesting to see what his lap time is this time around when he comes in, because this is the killer lap, because behind him, Simpson doing 22.4 last lap around, and Foley a 23.5, Tara 23.9. So the guys behind him have all been gaining some time, and you're right, Bagsy, here he is. He comes in, looked a little bit quick, but he attacked the line very, very hard. Oh, and had a little bit of a wiggle on the end of the pit lane as well. Scrubs off a couple of tenths. But that just goes to show you how keen he is to get in there and get himself serviced. Well, there he is. He's on the jacks.
It's a very difficult pit entry, this one as well.
It is a bit tricky because there's a little chicane just before the left-hand bend.
It's got it like a Scandi flick to get it in.
Yeah.
It goes slightly out to the right, and then it swings harder and left.
And Lewis gave us a little Scandi
First
flick.
time in.
Yeah, he gave us a little
First
Scandi flick on the
time in.
entrance.
We raced here at the Formula 3. I think the first time I tried to pit during practice, I lost both my wings.
Yep. Well, Andy Simpson resumes resumes the lead of the race. Foley goes through to take second. Lewis Wedding still stationary. There he is. Harvey getting a drive-through penalty, so that he's on circuit, so that's going to be probably for track violation. So that's heartbreak for Harvey. Tara goes through to third. Graham will go through to fourth, and Wedding's on. And there's championship implications for that with Harvey. We'll come back to that in a second. So Graham goes through. Van Dassler goes through. Wedding is on the move. Jamie Snow has gone past, but the question is, does Wedding clear Snow? And the answer to that is no, he does not. So very, very close, but Wedding, despite all the fuel saving, still is behind Jamie Snow.
Sorry, because absolute heartbreak for Brock Harvey. He came in to serve his drive-through penalty and was speeding in the pit lane, so he's got another drive-through penalty.
Dear, oh dear.
Probably the end of Brock Harvey's chances at a championship victory, sadly. Barring something catastrophic for Lewis Wedding, he has basically no chance. He's down in 11th now, and he's going to have to serve another drive-through, which is going to drop him behind Matt Schwartz, so it's going to drop him to 12th.
Yeah, so
you do say that, but he has a big moment on the rear end there. He did only get himself into this championship position by making sure he was there at the end of races. As we said earlier, he hasn't actually been on the podium yet.
no,
So there is still
right.
a very real chance for him, as he does basically just need to do what he's done for the whole season so far, but that does rely on problems for Lewis Wedding later on in the race.
Does rely on problems, and it relies on a whole bunch of factors, and we've still got an hour, just over an hour and a quarter to decide all this, but you're right, it's going to drop Harvey right to the back of the field of the runners and almost go very close to putting him a lap down too, which won't be very good.
With that in mind, I've got the live championship standings at the moment. Currently, Lewis Wedding would win the championship by 6 points from Brock Harvey, with Greg Nangle coming in second, and Matt Schwartz and Matt Webb tying for fourth, but Webb would come fourth based on having more victories than Matt Schwartz. Jamie Snow would also tie for fourth as well, but Jamie Snow only having one victory, it would be Matt Webb followed by Jamie Snow followed by Matt Schwartz.
Well, speaking of Jamie Snow, still being pursued by Lewis Wedding. That pit strategy hasn't worked out for him. Wedding also got Nangle in close company as well. So a little 3-car train here heading up to the corkscrew on lap 31.
Ooh, Brent Foley just had a big moment coming into the second last corner.
That's Foley in second place. He's got some margin though on Tara behind. But have a look at the margin that Simpson's now extracted over Foley. So he's got well over 24 seconds on second place. So Simpson's in cruise control at the moment. He's really turned the wick up since his stop. And at this stage, looking quite the goods to get a race win under his belt.
Yeah, he was looking quite good last time he was out in front in Spa, and unfortunately DNF'd. I believe due to not being able to change tyres.
Yeah, well,
So,
he certainly managed to look like he's figured that out this time around, because that car is absolutely flying.
Just to go back on what you said earlier, Bagsy, about the helicopter shots of the track making it look a lot easier than it is. One thing you definitely don't get, even from the TV cameras we have around the track, is the amount of undulation and banking you have as you go through and out of these corners is misleading from the shots we can see at the moment. But when you're out there, it is a completely different track than what it looks like from above.
Yeah, it's certain. The helicopter shots tend to take a lot of the elevation away from the circuit, so it's not a flat circuit. This one
has just gone off the track and lost 2 positions.
Yeah, he has. So there he is. He has lost it. It's on the run up to the corkscrew. So let's have a bit of a sticky beak at what happened here. So off of turn number 5, pursued by Wedding, and it looks like he will have done it at turn 6. Yeah, he missed the apex completely at turn 6, 2 of the gravel, and that corner has seen its fair share of off-track excursions so far, and drops 2 positions, well, very, very easily in the end, drops 2 positions, Jamie Snow. Lap 33 now.
Brock Harvey's had a spin in the corkscrew.
Yep, so Brock Harvey, and he's hit the wall as well, so he's now dropped down to 12th, so he's lost position there to Matt Schwass, and now gets it pointing the right way. This has been a horrible couple of laps for Brock Harvey.
He didn't quite hit the wall there. He came
Oh,
close.
here it is on the replay. Oh, he took too much turn there. Oh, Matt Schwass came through on him as well. It looked like he hit the wall. He tried to get it turned, and when we cut to him, he was facing the wall, so he hadn't hit the wall, but then he had to get himself sorted and going again. So an awful, awful, awful couple of laps for the man in second place in the championship.
He's really going to be relying on a Wedding DNF at this point, because that's 12th place is a long way from Wedding's current 6th.
Now, sadly for Harvey as well, he's gone a lap down to the race leader as well. So the safety car came out now. I mean, he doesn't have a shot at the win at this point in time, but he's a lap down on everybody else behind. He's actually the first of the lapped runners. So he has not had a good time here, but for him, the focus now is on Greg Nangles. So Nangles in 7th place, Harvey's down in 12th. Points Master Stairs will be furiously calculating the points here to see if that means a change of position. But from our records, it doesn't look like it does, or from my mental math, it doesn't look like it does.
Jamie Snow has just had a look up the inside of Nangle to turn 1 or 2. I can't remember if that kink down the straight.
That's the kink is turn 1, the hairpin is turn 2. So Snow very, very close to that Mercedes.
A bit of a look, and it looked like he may have been caught out a bit by Nangle, braking slightly earlier than he expected. He did look to get a little bit crossed up in the braking zone, but they both come out of it as they went in with no further damage.
They've lost Andy from this race as well now, so Andy was circulating at the back in 15th place, so he is retired. Our second retirement with Jaden Draper not taking the start, as Jamie Snow to the inside now on the run up to turn number 7, and then onto the corkscrew 8 and 8A. That very decisive move off of turn number 6, and that was very well done.
A little bit of a mistake from Nangle there. It looked like he ran a tiny little bit out wide and just had to lift so he didn't go off to the gravel. Yeah, we're looking at the replay here, and you're right, he skated wide, and he skated wide, but not very, he didn't go onto the gravel too much, but the move was there and the opportunity was taken with both hands by Jamie Snow. Nangle was another one of the runners we have tonight that was in the Formula 3 race here, and the gravel around this track in the Formula 3s was almost impossible to get out of, and I do wonder if the likes of Nangle and Wedding and so on are a little bit more wary of that in these cars after having had issues in the Formula 3 race. Just don't want to get stuck, so they're being a little bit more cautious if they do start to run wide.
Well, speaking of Wedding and Nangle, they're separated by 2 places on track, but Nangle is 6th, and is sort of just between Snow and Van Dassler at the moment. So he's just running his own race and going into this fuel conservation mode again to try and get just one more stop out of the Lambo before this race is over and done with. Just drops 2 tyres onto the outside gravel there on the run up the hill to the corkscrew.
He's been doing that a lot into and out of corner. I think with the fuel saving, he is trying to use as minimal input as possible, so to try and keep the car on as much of a straight line as possible. Minimalise his fuel and tyre usage.
Yeah, minimise the energy required to drive the car, just nice and simple and smooth, I guess is probably the way we'd like to call it. And he is the master of fuel saving. We've seen it before, and he's doing a nice job here. Let's have a look at his lap time as he crosses the line. So 24.0, and it's only half a second away from his best lap, so just trying to be consistent, I think, Lewis. He's playing the long game here, being patient with the long game.
Yeah, just driving to a time and doing what he needs to do to get through till that critical moment when he can start to attack a bit.
Well, the nearest battle on track, as we have a look a bit further up at this point, besides Snow and Nangle, it's Van Dassler and Graham, so that gap's only a second. McLaren making some inroads in some sections, but the Ferrari able to hold its own in some other areas, but it's closing in a little bit on this lap. It's already down 3/10 as Van Dassler opens the taps up the hill toward the corkscrew. So this could be a change of position the next couple of laps if the McLaren driver can make it stick somewhere. He's doing all the right things at the moment, Van Dassler.
Just a quick look at because at the moment Wedding is quite a long way ahead championship-wise, but obviously we've still got an hour and 8 minutes to go, so anything could happen. But if Wedding were to DNF, then Brock Harvey would need to finish 13th to get the championship victory. Alternatively, for Greg Nangle, he would need to finish 4th, so he's currently down 8th. So he'd need to make up some positions on the people just ahead of him to be able to get the championship in the event of a Wedding DNF.
Well, Van Dassler drove it very hard into turn number 2 and looked like he was going to lose some time there, but I think he actually gained out of it by driving it in there so deep and so hard and took the second apex at speed, which was very, very good. And he's really closing in on the back of Anthony Graham here as we watch him run all the way up to turn number 5 now. Closes in again and driving it very hard under brakes there. He's so aggressive. I'm not sure where this turn of speed's come from, but he's really cranked it up a notch here and trying to apply maximum pressure to the Ferrari driver ahead. Fantastic car control to see, going so late and so deep under brakes. You wouldn't want to try it here though. He closes up, and this is going to be on very shortly if he keeps this pace up. He's really got that McLaren moving very, very nicely around this circuit. And a little bit of flare too, just sticking the tail out a little bit here, no smoke. But driving that car to its absolute limit. This will be his next opportunity if he can get close enough. I mean, he had a very, very late braking manoeuvre to gain some track ground over his rival down here into turn 2, but is he close enough? Oh, he had to brake very, very late. What if he can pull it off? No, he can't. He went way too deep. He was way too hot into turn number 2 and is off the circuit. And he's going to have to back it up and get going again. He was committed though. Graham defended the inside and defended it fairly, but forced to go the long way round and could not get it stopped in time.
It was ambitious, to say the least, from Van Dassler, unfortunately. Yeah, he broke really later than almost any car could have to get that thing stopped. I don't think even if he was in a Formula 1 car, he would have stopped by that corner there.
No, he managed to pull it up before the wall though, thank goodness. So no damage done, apart from the loss of position. So moves Wedding up to 5th now. So here he is. Still 2 seconds behind the 4th place car of Anthony Graham. He was 2 seconds behind Van Dassel before he went off the road. But moves up to 5th Wedding, so a few extra points in the bag, a little bit of extra insurance policy for his championship charge. Everything really settled down here on track now, gents. We haven't really got any close battles we really can talk about. We're approaching halfway. We're just over 5 minutes away from the half distance mark. And do you think Lewis is playing himself into contention here by thinking about stopping only once more if he can do it? I mean, he's 53 seconds off the lead. We know how long it takes for a stop. Do you think he's going to... I don't think he'll get the lead when if he stops once more and everyone else has to stop 3 times, but he will advance up the order quite substantially. I mean, Foley's only 21 seconds ahead. Potentially he's going to leapfrog Foley in 2nd place if the long game plays out the way he expects it to.
I think he can't get the lead, but he can definitely battle it up with Foley. It's I think Simpson's in a class of his own today. He's not gonna be passed whatsoever. Even if he has to stop one more time, he's gonna have the fuel. As I believe we had Luke Joyner off the side of the track there.
Yeah, that was Luke off the exit of the corkscrew, same spot where Webb went off. Boak gets a drive-through. Now Boak's ahead of Schwass and Harvey.
Track cutting.
Yep, so Boak's ahead of Schwass and Harvey, and if he serves his drive-through now, he'll probably stay ahead of those guys actually. So unfortunately, they won't be able to capitalise on his indiscretion.
Yeah, back to your question before. I think Wedding is going to come second in the end, because if he can make it 2 stops, he'll come second. Otherwise, I think he's probably going to stick around 4th or 5th.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Bagsy. I do think, however, if there is a late safety car, that obviously that will bring him right back into contention for the win. Just depending really when that is regarding his final stop and everyone else's final stops, which will obviously be out of sync.
That's right. Well, it'll be interesting if that does happen though, Scruff, because if you end up with a late safety car, knowing Lewis, and we know he loves a race win, but we know he's also got championship to consider. Do you think he's going to go for it, or do you think he's going to just settle for it?
I don't know him as well as I know a few of the other drivers, but I think I can be fairly confident when I say he will go for it if he sees a chance towards the end of the race. He'll look at where Brock and Angle are, and if they're not right behind him, I can't really see him doing anything other than go for it and hope if he does lose it, he can just turn it around and get back on track.
Yep. Well, a little bit of a flick off of the last turn there, Lewis Wedding. Still doing 24s.
I was mentioning those little moments I was having before, and then just realised during that one that that's just how he drives the car.
Oh, he's gone very deep though at turn number 2, and that allows Snow to close back up on the end. He's using a very interesting line, Lewis Wedding, I've noticed. He's using almost all of the road to the right of the circuit on the run down to turn number 2.
Right in the braking zone, and then he'll turn in a little bit later.
It's almost out.
Looks like he's just missed it that time. But
yeah, it's almost out of track limits. Like, he's very, very close to exceeding the track limits there, because his left-hand tyres we'll watch him on the next lap as he comes around, but his left-hand tyres were very, very close to crossing that white line, which technically means you're out of bounds.
He was probably a foot outside of the track limits with the inside tyres. It's like going into turn 1 at Hidden Valley. You can go right outside the track limits there as well. It should just change the angle of the entry into.
Well, Wedding's catching Anthony Graham ahead now, who Graham's caught up behind some lap traffic. I was trying to work out who that is. It's either going to be Keane or Harvey, or it's Brock Harvey. Yeah, it was a dark-coloured car. It looked like it was going to be Keane or Harvey, and it is now Brock Harvey. So this will be interesting for Lewis Wedding. He'll be coming up to the back of Brock Harvey, and he obviously won't know the full story about what's going on, but all he will realise is that he's about to put a lap on his championship rival. And there he did it again. He went very, very wide, Lewis Wedding, and used all the road to try and get maximum turn-in purchase for turn number 2. And almost to the point where he's exceeding the track limit, so he's going to have to be very careful. But Harvey.
How bad is it going to feel for Brock Harvey having his championship contender coming up to lap him halfway through the race?
I'm actually surprised he hasn't turned the lights on. Just as a little bit of extra pain for him.
No, I don't think. Look, I don't think Lewis is that sort of a person. But if it's Brock, he would have. Thinking about what he said to me earlier, he really only did care about the class win. So he was only focused on Pro B, and Pro B standings still retain that.
But does he really mean that though? I don't think he. I think he's just saying that as a sort of like, oh no, I'm just happy with it. He's lowering his expectations, but we all know that he wants that win.
He would look. He
wants
deep
the
down
full championship win.
Deep down inside, he'll want the win. He'll know that for sure. But he knows the kind of pace that the guys in the Pro A class can run, and he knows that on a good day he can stay with them, but he will struggle to get past them as Wedding finally gets past. But even he said to me, even when the Porsche Super Series started, he wasn't too shabby in them. And then when the likes of Brenton Hobson came in, he found that, you know what, I'm not that bad, but I'm not that good either. And then when Hobbo's mates all started to come in as Wedding goes wide at turn 2 again, when Hobson's mates all started to turn up, then Broxoff realised, you know what, I'm not that great, and I really need to settle for people that I can actually race with in my own category. So I kind of see his point. He is racing for a Pro B title, but if anything was to happen to Lewis, then I'm sure he would, deep down inside, all that emotion would come up for an overall GT3 win. But nonetheless, a Pro B champion is still a Pro B champion. Nonetheless, it's a champion in class, and we've got 3 of them to be decided. And Pro A's effectively already been decided. It's just B and AM that need to be settled tonight.
Well, he's going to have to be careful because Greg Nangle is currently in 6th place, and that's going to make it very close for the Pro B Championship, to be honest.
Yeah, it makes it a bit close for comfort with
It'd be a 3-point
points
gap.
difference. So it'd be a 3-point gap. So Harvey would retain it by 3 points. So any more position advancement for Greg Nangle would have dire implications for Harvey. And if Harvey DNF'd, then he'd lose that 2nd place. And therefore, championship for Pro B. Lewis has gone deep again, guys. I'm not sure if this is deliberate or not, but he's going very deep, missing the apex, the first part of the apex of turn 2, and then gathering it up for the second apex of turn 2. Snow's not able to capitalise.
I'm guessing it's part of his fuel saving. Just it gives him more time off the throttle before getting on the brakes, and then he can sort of take a smoother acceleration out instead of being sort of on and off the throttle in the middle of the corner.
He's going to have to be careful though, because when he runs it deeper, Snow runs wide off of turn 6, and that's not the first time he's done that either. But every time Lewis runs it deep, he's running it into the marbles too, so he wouldn't want to pick up the accelerator too heavily, otherwise he's going to get it.
Dassler in as well, by the way.
Yeah, so he's come in around about same sort of lap time or laps completed that he did in the first stint. So second rounds of pit stops starting to kick off.
Amy Snow, after that mistake, now has Greg Nangle right on his tail.
Yeah, he's got Harvey. Yeah, he's got Harvey on his tail, but he's got Nangle's close in that battle too. As Harvey peels over in the background, lets him by.
Well. They've got Webb behind them as well, which won't make things any easier for either of them.
No, so Harvey has pulled over and let those guys past. That's better from Lewis Wedding through turn number 2 this time. So got both apexes on that time around, and he's moved up to 4th now. So Snow moves up to 3rd because Van Dassel is in the pits, pitting from 3rd place, or what was 3rd place. Brenton Foley's just stretched his legs a little bit too, because he was 21 seconds ahead of Wedding a couple of laps ago. He's now out to 24. So, his Wedding's gone wide. Wedding's gone wide off of turn 5, so his fuel-saving strategy unfortunately sends him a bit wide. So, and Snow's dropped off the back of Wedding as well. So, at the moment where Wedding went wide and he should have been there to capitalise, Jamie Snow, he wasn't anywhere to be seen.
Yeah, when we were talking about Brenton Foley earlier, there was a thought that I had. Last time out, we saw him.
Oh,
and
race leader,
Justin
sorry to cut
Simpson-
you off, Scruff. Race leader has received a drive-through penalty.
Ignore my casual way of saying that. I thought it was the other Andy. Didn't realise.
No, the other Andy has retired, but the race leader has received a drive-through penalty, and it can only be for track limits because he's still on circuit and he's miles out in front at the moment, but that's going to be rather interesting when he comes in. I mean, he's got, what's he got? He's got over half a minute on second place, so he's not going to surrender the lead, but going to make it rather interesting.
Funnily enough, after we see that message come up, Lewis does not take the wider entry into the first corner.
No. Well, here's the race leader.
Sorry.
Race leader is serving his drive-through penalty now, so he wouldn't want too many more of these. So he's going to drop about half to sort of about 60% of his advantage to Brenton Foley behind. So he had a minute and 1 second lead, and he's going to come out with about a 27-second margin. So a lucky boy, Andy Simpson, that he has that margin in hand.
This
He's only
fight
lost
for
about 10
third is
seconds.
closing up.
Sorry, Bagsy, we couldn't quite hear you there, mate.
He's only lost about 10 seconds from that drive-through because it was 36 seconds when he was on the way in, and it's only 27 seconds on the way out.
I might have been my timing screen playing a bit of an issue with me here, but Andy Simpson's actually got the cog up on the screen there, so planning another stop probably soon, Andy Simpson, I would dare say.
Sorry for talking over you there, Bags. I didn't
Yep.
see you come on, but we've got the fight for third is starting to close up again as Snow is caught right back up to Will's Wedding and brought Nangle and Webb along.
Yeah, well, here they are. Webb, Nangle, Snow, and Wedding trying to hunt down Anthony Graham here. So they're starting to get a bit closer for comfort, closer and closer and closer each lap. And there's Jamie Snow there. If we look up to Simpson, Simpson's in. So the lap after he serves the drive-through, Andy Simpson comes in for his second stop. So he's guaranteed to have to stop one more time. He definitely can't make it from here. So that's a bit of a kick in the teeth for Andy Simpson, planning to come in for a pit stop and then having to cancel it, and then because of his drive-through, and then stops the next lap around. So this will give Foley back the race lead to lead a few more laps before his second stop. Now, how far can Foley stretch it? We've been going for an hour and 7 minutes.
So that's what I was saying earlier before Simpson got his drive-through penalty. Last time out we saw Foley and Wedding spent quite a bit of time near each other on track, which is a fight that Foley eventually did lose out on, but he would have got a good idea of how Lewis was saving petrol, and after watching the way he came through towards the end of the race, is it possible Foley has thought, well, that's a good idea, I'll give that a go in the last round?
Yeah,
He was one of the longer runners in the first stint, I do believe.
I don't think, based on the current pace, that it's going to be that he's going to be able to make it on 2 stops for Foley, even though he's saving fuel. But he is going to have to put less fuel in the end, and will have fresher tyres than the former race leader Andy Simpson.
Yeah.
This is really playing into Wedding's hands though, because we're still about 12 laps away, maybe 10 laps away from Wedding coming into the pits. So it's almost certainly going to be one stop less for Wedding, and that drive-through is probably bringing him back into contention for the win.
Yeah, well, the prediction from the pit reporter stairs is that we expect Foley somewhere around lap 50 to 51. Well, he's about to complete lap 48. And this is interesting too, because Ferrari being able to go a little bit longer, as you said, Bagsy, if it pans out the way that we think it's going to pan out, then he's going to only have to stop. After this, he'll stop one more and then stop another time, and it'll be a less fuel to go in the car. Therefore, it'll be a shorter stop, and it might play him into a good position here. And also, as you said, bring Wedding back into contention for the race win by the virtue of the fact that Simpson has stopped and then had his drive-through as well. And it wouldn't. It means that Simpson's going to have to get his skates on if he wants to have any hope of getting on for a win.
Matt Webb has got through on Greg Nangle and Jamie Snow. He's now up to
Yeah,
pit.
Jamie Snow and Nangle
looks-
pit.
Yeah,
that would explain it.
yeah. So all the second rounds of stops are starting to pan out now. The race leader is Brenton Foley. and we'll be expecting him in a couple of laps' time.
Andy Simpson is right on the back of Lewis Wedding now, having come out behind him. So this is very close. This is 4th position.
Yeah, it is 4th position.
It's quite hard.
Well, this is interesting that Wedding's going to this point of defending. He knows that Simpson's had the pace all night. So what's the point in defending if Lewis is trying to run his own race here?
Because this is going to be costing Simpson time the whole time. This is time Simpson could be getting ahead because both of these guys are going to be stopping one more time at this point. So this is 4th position on track.
Well, the matter of question is how much energy, fuel usage and tyre energy does Lewis spend trying to defend, as well as trying to attack Anthony Graham ahead.
Wedding has
What
to be
is
really
now second
careful
place?
defending here, though, because if he goes too hard in defending and there's an incident, and that ruins Wedding's race or causes him to DNF, then it's an open goal for Brock Harvey.
Yeah, that's right. Well, on the outside, Andy Simpson slots back into the inside. Now, what does Wedding do here? Does he hold it tight? No, he doesn't. He squeezes him, though. He makes it very difficult. Oh, and that's now cuts back underneath him. So, Andy Simpson
taking almost a rally line through that corner there and keeping Simpson behind him.
Yeah, so Andy Simpson, and we'll have a look at that on the replay because that was a sight to
for
behold.
Simpson as well there.
Yeah, Simpson's getting very aggressive. We're just cutting back to the replay to have a look at what happened down here at turn 1 because it was
Simpson is on the inside again. He's having a look around the outside now.
So there it is at turn 2. Wedding squeezed him. Simpson went a bit too deep. Wedding cut back underneath him. So all's fair between those guys.
Inside. No, he's backed off.
He is trying to kitchen.
But as we come to the corkscrew, Simpson's going to have another run. Wedding is defending very heavily.
I wouldn't want to be trying to pass him here because this is the hot spot. And on top of that, Anthony Graham ahead is complicating matters for Wedding. Wedding's unable to get the power down as early as he wants because he's got a Ferrari blocking the way ahead of him, although that's for position 2. So this is really, as Simpson looks down the inside, but he's not going to have enough of an opportunity to get it done here. I fancy his move at turn number 1 again, although he's all over him.
He's forced to go defensive here, so he's going to have a better run out of the corner.
He's not close enough though this time, Simpson. I think if he's going to have a go at him, he's going to have a go very, very deep under brakes. I think Simpson's way too far back. Yeah, this time he's way too far back to have a go. But Anthony Graham goes deep. So Graham goes deep. He'll have to be careful here because he's got 2 guys underneath him. But Wedding and Simpson, when he gets through without incident, Simpson just gets through. Graham sends it in though. Gives a little bit of a tap. Just a little bit of a tap there to Simpson. Thankfully, didn't send him off the road, but that would have been very, very heart-stopping for not only for Graham going in a little bit too deep, but for Simpson to get a little bit of a love tap. Very nearly ended up in the gravel.
Welcome sight in Wedding's mirrors, though, seeing Simpson off the track.
No, certainly not. Well, with all this squabbling that's going on between Wedding and Simpson, Foley is maintaining his advantage out in front. In actual fact, Keen's got a problem. Sorry, just cut you off there. Keen's got a problem, and he pulls off at the safest part of the corkscrew. So good job, David Keen. Didn't see what's going on there.
Up there as well.
Foley's in the pits now too, so this is about to become the battle for the lead.
It is. And Foley had got himself an extra second in terms of time gained because of these guys that were squabbling. I was about to say before we cut to that. So Wedding has the race lead, but Simpson is hot in pursuit. He got a better exit that time, Andy Simpson. Now down to turn through 1. Now turn 2. Oh, that's very, very aggressive from Simpson. That's in the pit, and Simpson's been handed a penalty for that. That's a drive to penalty. Wedding's around! Wedding's around! I'm not sure if that was a direct result of what happened with Andy Simpson. We're going to go back and take a look at that because Simpson's got a drive through.
Wedding spun all on his lonesome there. Simpson went way too far off the track to try and make that pass.
Yeah, and that was very foolish from Andy Simpson too. He knows that pit line is out of bounds, and he was given a track cut, and rightfully so, and he got all out of sorts. But Wedding spun on his own accord, and that was the end of that. And Wedding has now moved down to 4th. So all that hard work from Lewis Wedding has now unfortunately come undone.
No, not all undone, because Simpson's going to serve this drive-through, and he's going to come out only a couple of seconds behind Wedding again. So this battle is going to resume. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The battle will resume. So Wedding will have his hands full again. We're not expecting Wedding in for probably another 5 to 7 laps, probably, depending on. He will have used a lot more fuel defending Simpson though, so he might not be able to run quite as long.
That's it. Well, the prediction from Stairs was right in the pits. Foley did come in at the end of lap 51, as expected. As Simpson, where is he here on track? Yeah, serving his drive-through right now, so 2 drive-through penalties, 1 for track cutting earlier in the piece, and 1 for what can only be described as probably a very foolish move on the inside of the track at turn number 1, and you can see there he's knocked over all the pit lane cones. And the battle's set to resume. So he's going to come out right behind Wedding. And that's why I said Wedding's hard work has all been in vain, because Simpson with that penalty and then Wedding spitting all on his own. Now he's going to have Simpson for company again. If Wedding hadn't spun, he would have been another 7 or 8 seconds up the road, and he would have had a lot of breathing room and time to get back to his fuel-saving strategy. But now he's going to have to go back to saving fuel whilst defending, because Simpson's about to have another crack. Round 2, gloves are on, ding, 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 and here we go.
Great news for us, but horrible news for Lewis Wedding.
Oh, he's up the inside here.
Oh.
Very close. Andy Simpson decides that he doesn't want to cause a championship implicating crash and wisely pulls out. He's almost sent it down to the corkscrew as well, though.
And Wedding, very, according to pit lane radio and from Stairs, Wedding very displeased by what Andy Simpson had done with the overly aggressive runner on the last race. As going here, and I'm worried for Lewis here, gentlemen. I'm worried that this battle is going to end in disaster if Lewis isn't very careful here, because in my opinion, I think he knows that Simpson's got to stop one more time. I think he should just let him go. And see, Lewis is crowding him. Lewis is not making this it's making it difficult for Andy, but I'm seriously worried that this is going to end in tears.
And he's going to try to drive around the outside in turn 2. And he's almost made it, but he gets out onto those marbles, and you lose so much grip. He's not going to be able to make it through there.
Yeah, he hung with him for the first part.
I see where you're coming from now, but you need to remember this is 4 position. They both only need to stop once, and Andy Simpson has fresh tyres, and so Wedding wants to use up as much of those fresh tyres as he can, so that Simpson can't get down the road. And Simpson's up the inside again. He's going to try into turn 5. They touch.
And a love tap, and Simpson around. So, and he gave Wedding a couple of taps while he was at it, so we had the helicopter cam on that, so we don't need to show you the replay because you saw it all right there. But Simpson getting very, very aggressive, and a little bit of rat-a-tat-tack on the bumper bar of Lewis Wedding, and ultimately caused his own undoing there. His boat runs very, very wide off of turn 6, and now Simpson's going to have it all to do to catch up. So
I feel that may have been slightly some of Wedding's fault as well. There, he did I don't know if he left him in entire car's width there, but regardless, Simpson is.
And Graham's in the pits. So this cycles Wedding back through to spend another bit of time in the lead of this race. Coming back to your point, Bagsy, it was fair. In my opinion, that one was fair defending from Lewis Wedding. He left him a car's width on the inside. But then probably closed down on the apex of the turn just a little bit, and forced Simpson to a point where he was going to need to back out of the move. If he wasn't far enough alongside, which he wasn't, he needed to back out of the move and didn't back out soon enough. So Simpson was dropped down to 8 seconds behind, and now he's down to about 7. So already doing his best to close in here. This has allowed Brenton Foley to gain a little bit of time, because he was, with all that argy-bargy going on, he was up to 25 seconds behind Lewis Wedding at that point. He's now back to 23, so getting his head down, Brenton Foley, and actually trying to stay ahead of Greg Tara, because Tuz has closed in quite quickly on him as well. And here they are on screen as they exit turn 3 and now through 4 and up to turn 5.
Really early in the race, lap 19, Tara came in. We were sort of wondering what he was going to do, but it's clearly worked out for him, because he's now battling for the podium. And this is the podium with all the pit stops shaken out, bar Lewis Wedding, although we believe he's only going to stop one more time, so that's technically shaken out. So that'll be for Tara. This is 4th position. Despite Tara being on much older tyres, it seems that Foley just isn't enjoying this set of tyres, or might have lost his rhythm a little bit at this point in the race. So
I think Foley's gone into, I wouldn't say a little bit of a fuel-saving mode here, but maybe he's just trying to save a little bit of fuel just to make that third stop that he knows he has to make just a little bit shorter. just to try and gain any little advantage he can. As he went a little bit deep there, Foley, but Tara went to the inside, gave him some room, and the positions stayed as they were. Foley's last lap time was a 23.6, so that's not too bad. That's the kind of lap times that most of the front runners have been doing on the odd occasion, with the exception of Simpson.
23.1 from Tara, who gets right up behind him and almost touches him, but pulls it up just in time.
He certainly does, and we're just watching the gap on left-hand side of screen there. It's down to, still about 6 seconds now, so Wedding is out in front, but Simpson is doing his darndest to try and close that gap down. A little bit further back, we've got another battle here between Nangle and Snow going on as they cross the line to complete 55 laps and now start 56, so they're quite close. Behind them, Van Dassel is closing in, Webb's closing in, and they came out ahead of Graham. So Anthony Graham, after his pit stop, has dropped down to 9th. So that hasn't worked out for the Ferrari driver in that occasion. And Angle up to 5th. Harvey's still down in 12th. So in the points situation, that gives Nangle an extra couple of points in terms of Pro B. So we're furiously trying to work out what's happened there. That makes that battle even more close than what it is, and very important that Nangle stays ahead of Snow here if that's the case.
We'll hopefully get an update from Stairs soon on the championship standings, so we can see where things are at the moment, given everyone has to stop one more time.
Yeah, certainly will. Well, Tara still pursues Foley ahead, so that's a nice little battle shaping up there. Both drivers having stopped one more time. Navigating turn 2 safely. Back at the front, here we are. Here's Andy Simpson. He's second place. He's got the gap down to 4.2 seconds now, so rattling off some quick laps in his pursuit of Lewis Wedding. Even if he can get to the back of Lewis Wedding, he's then going to have to put the hammer down and put it down quite quickly for several laps in order to make sure that when he stops again, that he comes out ahead of Lewis.
Well, basically, he's just... this is 4th position now. We know they're both going to stop one time, so this is 4th position. We expect Wedding to be in a couple laps as well. So if there is another battle that starts, it's not really going to be it's not going to be quick, because Wedding's probably just going to pit straight in front of him.
22.5 that time for Andy Simpson around. Sorry to cut you off there, Scruff. 22.5, so only 0.2 of a second off his best lap. Andy Simpson, so he's driving the wheels off of that car in pursuit of Lewis Wedding. He's got a little bit of lap traffic on the circuit there as well, but potentially. But no, it's not. It's Wedding. Sorry, I thought it was a lap car. It is Lewis Wedding. Over to you, Scruff.
I was just going to ask Bagsy what lap we worked out. What lap you and Stairs worked out that Wedding was due in for?
Around lap 58 to 60, and we're hearing that he'll be in this lap.
The expectation is to be in this lap, waiting for little points update as well, which is being furiously calculated as we speak. So if the rumour is true, well, there's a bit of confirmation for you. The cog with a spanner in it suggests that Wedding's going to be in this lap, and Simpson pumping in the times. He's got that gap down to 1.2 seconds now. You can see it's visual now. So the race leader, and we've got a local yellow flag here for a little incident. I'm trying to see what it is. We saw the car, David Keane on the outside of the circuit at turn number 10. And it is. Wedding is in. Tacks it nicely. And the Scandi flick again. So little flick as he comes out there. So that gives Simpson back the lead. Now the question for Andy Simpson is, how much of a gap can he build before his next stop? Because Wedding can go to the flag here. Confirmed, he can go to the flag.
You know what the crucial thing here is going to be where Wedding comes out, because it's going to be very touch and go between him and the battle pack that is, as Boat gets thrown through penalty, the battle pack that is Nangle, Snow and Webb, because they're all very close to each other, and he could end up out behind them, which will cost him a lot of time getting past them.
Well, Tara's just gone through, and Jamie Snow and Greg Nangle are coming around turn 9 now.
We've had Jorrit van Dussel retire from the race as well.
So he was up in
not too distant past.
He was up behind. He was up with behind Brenton Foley. So that explains why Tara's gone up to 3rd. So a retirement for Van Dassel. So disappointment for the McLaren driver. Wedding's still in the pits. So He's on the move
He's
now,
just
but
not
he's
moving
going to
now.
come out behind this battle with Snow, Dangle, and
He's
Webb.
come out behind Anthony Graham as well, by the looks of it.
Well, we'll wait to see what happens here, because where is he? There's Wedding as he takes out a Kono. I think he might be okay with Anthony Graham, because he's got to go the short way here, Wedding. It's going to be very close. No, he's going to come out behind the Ferrari.
That corner to get out of the pits is a lot tighter than you think it is as well. When you approach it in the car, it's being so narrow. It's one line through there, and you do have to slow down quite a bit.
Well,
running into gravel.
The next question is going to be, how long is it going to be before Lewis Wedding decides to get his skates on and start overtaking some cars? Because Graham is running his own race, and he'll need to defend from Wedding for that position as well. So that is a position on the road. There it is. Andy
Lewis
Simpson
should be able to push at least a little bit harder for this entire stint, or if he can fuel save for 5 to 10 minutes, he should be able to go pretty much all out to the end.
Well, Simpson, speaking of pushing, taking as much gravel as he can, and I'll be worried that he's going to get, and he might get another track violation if he goes to that extreme, because he's kicked up some dust on 2 out of the last 4 corners that he's navigated, all in the pursuit of speed, all in the pursuit of making lap time and extending that gap to his nemesis, as we're sort of calling it now, Lewis Wedding.
Well, Lewis has just started his first lap after leaving the pits, his first lap crossing the line. So this will be the biggest indicator of how strong he's going to be in his final stint.
Well, based on some quick back of the palm calculations, Wedding has enough fuel. I say back of the palm. Actually, Stairs has provided me the projected third stop times. For Lewis Wedding, it's going to be lap 87, but we reckon it's going to be lap 86. It's going to be the final lap of the race. So Wedding should be able to make it from here. He might have 1 lap of fuel to push with.
Well, what we think is that he can get to the flag. Depends how much fuel he put in too, I guess, as well, Bags. If he put in a full tank, then he should be right, given the numbers that are there.
He definitely put in a fuel tank based on his stopped time.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, sorry. Oh, Simpson's very wide. So Simpson very wide as he pushes the limits off of turn 4. And we spoke about that at the top of the broadcast, that turn 4 kind of sucks you into going a bit faster than what you normally would. I wouldn't be surprised if he got himself a track cut there as well. But he's really trying to make lap time, and he's not making as much lap time over second place as he likes, Simpson. But
second place doesn't matter for Simpson at the moment. It's all
Wedding.
about what Wedding does, and Wedding is currently 58 seconds down, and it was
He's just
56.
about to cross the line now.
It was
As he
56
gets
at
to
the
the
start.
inside of Anthony Graham. Sorry,
It was 56 at the start of this lap, and so he's losing a lot of time. And also, Simpson's final pit stop is going to be a lot shorter in terms of fuel, and fuel is the thing that takes longest. Simpson can probably avoid tyres for the last stop as well, just because it's going to be a much shorter stint. So if you take out 10 seconds for tyres, and you can probably take out 10 or 15 seconds of fuel from a full tank for him to get to the end, maybe even 20. So really, Wedding is on the back foot here, and really needs to get the hammer down.
His previous lap, he was looking for a way through on Graham, which he did so coming out of the final corner. So it wasn't the best lap, but he now has clear track in front and has already opened up a gap behind to Graham.
Yeah, so the gap is 58 seconds between first and sixth at the moment, which is where Lewis Wedding is. So
Tara has just pit. He's 22 seconds down on Graham and 24 seconds down on Wedding. So that's a position that Wedding definitely has on Tara.
He's not doing anything special in the first or second sector, at least on this lap. So whether or not he is still just saving for a few laps to give him a bit more push towards the end.
He's about to come up on this battle pack for the final podium position between Jamie Snow, Greg Nangle and Matt Webb.
Yeah, so that's a battle that we've been watching on our timing screens for a little while now, and he's still a couple of seconds off the back of the pack, but it's not to the point where Snow's a cork in a champagne bottle just yet, because
he's just done his best lap of the race, but only by a tenth of a second. He's still in the 23s, whereas the best lap from Andy Simpson 22.3. So
yeah, Simpson's last lap time around was a 23.1, so Wedding matching him in terms of pace. But he's going to have to do a little bit better than that, I think, because that gap is staying where it is. And there was a dive. Yeah, there was a dive. We saw a late dive in the background as Webb made a beautiful dive on Nangle. We'll go back and have a look at that just for the viewers who didn't see it. But he set it up beautifully out of turn number 4. Here it is. Much nicer line. In actual fact, it was the car had kicked up a bit of dust, and he was alongside and done rather early and rather nice. In actual fact, Nangle turned down on him, and he realised he was there. So Matt Webb makes a place.
Interestingly, just before Nangle was past there were only there was only 1 point between Nangle and
David
Brock
Keane
Harvey.
has just retired from the race. Sorry.
Yeah, he spun in the corkscrew and retired from there. Yeah, Matt Webb passing Greg Nangle has some implications for the Pro B accolades, because there was only 1 point between Nangle and Brock Harvey. Brock Harvey finishes where he is in 11th. Nangle will need second place, I believe. Third place, sorry, and that will get him the Pro B champion.
We'll keep an eye on that, because they all moved up. Well, Harvey moved up one by virtue of Keane's retirement.
And Keane was behind him. It was Joris Van Dassel's retirement.
Sorry, Joris' retirement, yeah. So Harvey's up to 12th. In actual fact, Luke Joyner's gone is 3 laps down. So Harvey has moved. Well, he was 12th at one stage. Harvey's moved up to 11th. And you're right, Nangle does need some more results. The snow's gone off the road at turn number 6, and that's about the 3rd or 4th time he's done that tonight from when we've been watching. That offers incentive to Matt Webb in the Nismo Nissan behind him. Not close enough to make a capitalise on the opportunity up at the corkscrew.
Just looking at Andy Simpson, he's had a backmarker spin in front of him, which is very close. Oh, Snow's gone. Snow is missing from the track.
What's happened to Jamie Snow? So he's...
I believe that's a disconnect.
That is a disconnection. So disappointment for Jamie Snow. He was looking rather good there, heading that little 3-car train, and now it becomes a 2-car train.
I'm not sure if it's a full disconnect yet or not. I'm seeing him disappear and reappear on the track. So
Yeah, I'm just trying to get word on what's happened to Jamie now.
Yeah, we're not 100% sure, but he's showing a lap down by my screen at the moment, so that means that he's probably stationary there somewhere.
Yeah, I've got him stationary just after the corkscrew on my timing.
Yeah, it looks like what's happened to him in the past.
There we go. He's left the game. So that is a DNF, unfortunately, for Jamie Snow. That's such a shame.
Yeah, it is. It moves Nangle up to 4th, but it will also, when all the positions shake out, move Harvey up to 10th. So
that's only 1 extra point for Harvey, though, and it's 2 extra points
for Nangle. So again, the championship calculations continue to be made, and Simpson out in front. 24 seconds on Brenton Foley at the moment, and he's got 59 seconds now on Wedding, or 59, nearly a minute on Wedding. So playing himself into contention here, Andy Simpson got the hammer down with clear air ahead of him in the hope to stay ahead of Lewis Wedding when he has to come in for his 3rd and final stop.
I think as long as he remembers, as long as he doesn't change, maybe he wants to change tyres to have some fresh rubber for the end to defend, but as long as he remembers not to fill up his fuel tank entirely, I think Andy Simpson has this race in hand fairly easily.
Yeah, it'll be all about the minor placings. If we cycle down to have a look at Brenton Foley. So Foley's got 35 seconds on Wedding at the moment, and he needs probably a little bit more than that in order to threaten seriously. He'll have a short fuel stop, but if I'm Foley, I'll want tyres as well. I'll want something to fight with. But
although, just having a look, Foley's tyres are not going to be that much worse than Wedding's when if he doesn't change them. So
yeah, but he has stopped before Wedding.
Also, he will. We're thinking he'll be in at around lap 77, which will be about 10 laps to go. So he'll probably only have to fill up half a tank. So I think he might come out just ahead of Lewis Wedding, assuming he doesn't take new tyres. So that could be quite the battle as well.
Well, that'll be strategy in the back of his mind.
Just to go back to Jamie Snow, he had his game crash, and it wasn't technically a disconnection. Still one of those annoying little issues we run into from time to time. So commiserations to Jamie there. He was quite well.
Lap 66 or 67 if you're the race leader, about to commence 67.
Wedding has caught right up to Matt Webb and Greg Nangle now. He's just about a second on Nangle.
Yeah, they're all coming around the second turn at the moment. So there's Webb, there's Nangle, and there's Wedding in back a shot, and Graham trying to hang on to them.
Nangle's incentivized to fight here because if he gets ahead of Webb, he ties Brock Harvey in the championship, and it goes to countback. And while we've mentioned Brock Harvey being consistent, that consistency hasn't got him a podium, whereas Greg Nangle has 3 second places. So the countback would give Greg Nangle the Pro B championship.
And they both have to stop again, so Webb and Nangle got to stop again. So that will be rather interesting to see what happens. If I was Greg, I'd be seriously thinking about coming in relatively early, maybe trying to make some advantage of those tyres with the undercut. But
well, it'll be into the next 5 laps or so anyway, based on the current calculations.
But at the end of the day, when they come in for their stop, they're going to have to. They won't be able to be challenging for third because Simpson's going to have to stop again. Foley's going to have to stop again. Wedding does not. So Wedding will have to go to the flag, going to the flag on the fuel that he's currently got.
Crucially, the gap between Simpson and Wedding is now exactly 1 minute, and 1 minute and 10 will get you a full fuel load and tyres, which we know Simpson isn't going to need.
No, that's exactly right. Wedding taking that wide line again. Oh, heart was in my mouth there for a minute because he looked like he was about to go around Lewis Wedding as he went very, very deep and very wide at turn number 1, and I thought the back end was about to come around. But he gathers it up and tries to get back on the power again to chase Greg Nangle through turn 4.
Actually fortunate enough to be offered a few laps in that car by the Lewis Wedding squad. I've been wanting to say that all day. And I can tell you that Lamborghini is, in my opinion, leaps and bounds better than the rest of the field in most aspects. It does lose out a bit on top speed. But as you come into the fight, it feels like a sort of dim-lidded LMP2 car, which I'm sure you can imagine I've been testing a lot lately.
Well, Greg's gone very deep at the corkscrew there, sorry, but Scruff, but he went very deep at the corkscrew. Wedding wasn't close enough there to capitalise, but it has allowed him to close in quite significantly. And now he's being held up by the Mercedes driver as they come down to the final turn. And let's see if Lewis is close enough to make an opportunity. He needs a good launch, and Greg's locked it up, gone deep. Wedding is relatively close. The question is he close enough to make a move? The Mercedes will punch a hole in the air for him, that straight line speed, if Wedding can go with him. But, no, I think he's a bit too far back, Lewis. Takes that wide line again, drives it deep. Oh, and they've both gone very deep. They've both gone deep. Oh, and Lewis stuck his nose somewhere where we shouldn't really want to stick it. He came to position, I guess, out of outfoxing Greg there. But they both went very deep at turn 2. Greg tried to cut down on and take his natural line there. Wedding tried to stick his nose. Greg realised a bit late and he got worried out of it.
Yeah, it's definitely that's the best way to put it. Worried out of it, and Wedding gains that position. So that's good news for Brock Harvey in the Pro B Championship. Good news for Lewis Wedding for the race win because he needs to really put his foot down now. Well, although he can't do it too much because only 2 seconds up the road is Matt Webb.
That's right. So now we can get a good relative gap because he's got a little bit of clean air to Matt Webb, has Lewis Wedding, and he can put his foot down. But Simpson's now got the gap out to 1 minute and 2 seconds. So the longer that Simpson continues to stay out there, the more gap that he is building. As speaking of good news for Brock Harvey, he's now serving his final pit stop, and he can go to the flag from here. But he's about to go another lap down to these guys, so he still falls behind Lewis Wedding and co. He's actually had there he goes, 2 laps down, had a very short stop, Harvey, by the look of it, if he's on the move.
Just to quickly finish off what I was saying about the Lamborghini, the balance of that car is its main attribute, and as you're going into corners, it encourages you to keep pushing harder and harder and harder, and we have seen Wedding have a few moments where he's got that car completely sideways before. I think it's just, it doesn't really tell you that much when he's about to come round on you, so it's more knowing where the limit is and just sort of driving up to that point rather than waiting for the car to tell you like you get with. So
well, it's Wedding pursuing Webb at the moment, with Nangle doing his best to try and hang on. But And they've got Matt Schwass, got a lap runner ahead of them as well, or they're about to negotiate as well. Plunge down the corkscrew. Gap stabilising to Simpson at the moment, still 1 minute and 2 seconds. We've got 21 minutes of this race to go, so getting down to the business end here. Wedding negotiates turn number 11, completes lap 69 and on to lap 70. Meanwhile, your race leader is also on lap 70. He's got a 31-second advantage over Brenton Foley in second place, as he comes down to complete lap 70 and start lap 71. 4 retirements so far. Jamie Snow, the most recent retirement through a disconnection. He'd completed 62 laps before disconnection. David Keane, 57 laps, and Jorrit van Dassel, 56 laps. And Andy retired after completing just 21.
We also had Jaden Draper going out on the formation lap as well, unfortunately.
Correct, we did lose Jaden Draper before the drop of the green flag, and he was up there on the at this pointy end of the grid as well, so we might have had another challenger to Andy Simpson had he have stuck around, but we have seen him. He took part in the 500. He took part in a couple of the GT3 races and some of the other series as well, and he is definitely a quick guy, so we'll see more of him in WEC.
Anthony Graham has had a crash. His game was crashed, unfortunately, by the looks of it, and he's out of the race.
So that's another retirement if that is true and correct. So let's cycle back through, and yeah, there he is. He's in a wall. So another disconnect. We just skipped back to Philip Boak just out of curiosity, and he's gone around. I'm actually seeing Anthony Graham just ahead. I saw a red Ferrari just ahead, so I'm assuming that was Graham. Hopefully he's got himself going. No, he has got himself going, so he's not disconnected, but there must be something going on there. But I saw Philip Boat going around for a bit of a spin there, so he's gotten past Graham, and we'll see if if Graham manages to get himself going again, because he was going rather well.
Andy Simpson is in the pits.
All right, so here is the move of the race. So Simpson is in. Where is Lewis Wedding? Wedding is down at turn 4. And now down to turn 5. Luke Joyner's missing a bonnet. Is a lap runner, so something's happened to him somewhere along the line. He runs deep to let... Oh, he actually runs deep and hits the tyre wall, but it lets all the guys through behind him without incident. But Wedding is now on his run up to the corkscrew, so let's see what happens to Andy Simpson. Meanwhile...
Andy Simpson is already leaving the pits, and he's on fresh rubber, so I'd say this is game, set, match, Andy Simpson.
I think this probably is. And where's Brenton Foley in all of this? As Foley's gone through to assume the lead, so... He has not stopped, but Wedding is, oh, he's gone a bit wide there off of turn 9 as well, Lewis Wedding. But Andy Simpson, yep, safely out of the pits, fueled up to the finish, game, set and match. And if you're a fan of Lewis Wedding, which we know Madbird, who watches these broadcasts, usually is, in his quiet little part of the universe, I'm sure he'll be hurling expletives, and it'll be spelt in the realms of Foxtrot Uniform Charlie Kilo.
Yes, indeed. It's going to be interesting. Brenton Foley to Lewis Wedding is currently 33 seconds, and it's about 10 seconds to transit the pit lane, or thereabouts. And to be honest, where we reckon Foley's going to get to around about lap. Sorry, while I check my notes.
He's in now. He's in now, Bagsy. Sorry to cut you off, but he had a bit of a moment off the exit off of turn number 10, and he's in now, and he's just turned his pit crew on now. That's a bit of a worry, because he was entering the pits without having warned them for a stop. So let's see what happens. And the car's going up, so this is getting tyres changed as well. So Simpson goes through. He will assumes a race lead. Webb has yet...
a very small amount of fuel, though.
And getting a very small amount of fuel. Webb has got to stop again. Nangle has got to stop again. Wedding does not. So let's see what happens here. Webb is staying out. Wedding obviously staying out. Nangle's dropped off the back of this pair as well. So where's Foley in all of this? Still stationary. So Webb goes through. Wedding goes through. Foley's on the move now. So Foley will come out right behind this battle and with fresh rubber and can go to the end. Now the question's going to be...
Oh, Tara's had a big off. Tara's having a big off at the moment. He was potentially going to come up to Foley, but he's
Yeah,
had
so...
a big off, unfortunately.
Yeah, so Nangle and Tara... Well, Nangle's gotten ahead, I think, yeah, of... no, Foley. No, he hasn't, actually. So Foley comes out into 4th place, and he's 10 seconds behind Wedding. Now, Wedding is right behind Matt Webb at the moment. How long is Matt Webb going to go before he comes in? Or is Matt Webb trying to fuel save?
Matt Webb almost certainly can't make it to the end, but he will probably have about 5 laps left. But at this point, you can come in at any point to make it to the end, really. So it's all about how much time you can think you can save.
We'll see if Bretton Foley can close in. Andy Simpson, a 22 flat, almost a 22 flat, 22.028. He's got something. Had some really interesting tyre wear that Stairs has been watching on the onboards, and still doing those numbers. But we got a funny feeling that with the fuel load he put in, did he actually change tyres? Did Andy Simpson actually change tyres when he comes in?
He did change tyres, yes.
Well, light fuel and new tyres then, well, that's the lap time you're going to get. That's qualifying style laps. As Matt Webb goes wide, Wedding goes, drives it in there hard and earns 2nd place. So Matt Webb tucks in behind. So in terms of what Foley might have been hoping for Webb to hold up, Wedding for a little bit longer and try and close that gap. That doesn't look like that's going to happen. So Webb will have to stop again. So it's a net...
There's confirmation that Anthony Graham has DNF'd.
Yep, so has been done.
So we may have an issue with Brock Harvey, because I cannot see him on the track at the moment. I know he's reappeared.
So
he's going very slowly. So
Harvey
Brock Harvey may be having issues.
He's currently down there in 9th place, and that's enough points at the moment.
Yeah, but if he's having issues,
if he has some issues
for the Pro B Championship.
Yeah, well, we know he has he doesn't have a fixed internet at his premises. It is a 4G, 5G, actually it's a 5G, I believe it is, connection. So having similar issues to what Jamie Snow had, but we'll watch that with interest because there is massive implications for Pro B if that occurs. But mind you, Nangle's only in 6th at the minute. Nangle has just stopped as well, so Nangle's good to the finish. Taro believes got to stop again. Webb has got to stop again. So Foley staring here at a net 3rd. Oh, sorry, it is 3rd place. As Matt Webb, what happened to Matt Webb there, gents? Because Matt Webb's off as well. So Matt Webb, we were saying, had to stop again, but he's off. So another issue, potentially the same sort of issues.
Webb's having a similar issue to Brock Harvey.
So Webb having issues to Brock Harvey. So we'll keep an eye on that. Nangle's just got to keep going here. So where's Harvey in all of this?
Brock is still having the issues.
Boke's taking out brake marker boards.
Entering the final.
Yeah, so issues upon issues upon issues late in the race, and all sorts of stuff going on here. Brock's still in the game, but
Matt Webb is gone, but I think Brock Harvey is going to be gone soon as well. He's probably holding on, hoping it comes good, but I think he might be done.
No, I think it very possibly that he's done. Andy Simpson does a 22-1 that time around, so he's just doing laps for fun now. He's only 3/10 off his PB, but he's got the race in hand, Andy Simpson, so he doesn't throw it away. Matt Webb is confirmation that he has DNF'd, so he is out of this race.
I'm just looking at the dedicated server, and it is receiving no data from Brock Harvey.
Well, bad news for Brock Harvey. It's not sounding good for him if he can't get himself sorted. Andy Simpson in a class of his own here. Wedding in 2nd. Foley in 3rd. So he's 8.2 seconds behind Wedding at the moment. So with 12 minutes to go, I don't think he's going to make any real impression on Lewis Wedding, but he's got the gap down to under 10 seconds. It was 10 seconds when he came out from his pit stop. He has got fresher rubber. I don't know if Wedding's got any lap traffic ahead of him that might slow him up, but we'll soon see what Foley can do. 4th place at the moment is Tara, and then Nangle is 5th, with Boak 6th, Schwass 7th, Matt Webb DNF is falling through the field in 8th, Brock Harvey 4 laps down, still doing his darnest to try and get himself sorted, and last runner at the moment is Luke Joyner, so he's also 4 laps down in 10th, so We've lost about a third of the field with 11.5 minutes remaining, and we're starting to get a bit of jerkiness here in the broadcast, and it's affecting me as well. So there's something going on here. The broadcast has frozen, so apologies to the viewers, because this is a little bit unexpected, and we believe this might be a few track issues that are going on here.
Maybe something on your end, because I'm still seeing it clearly.
So something's going on here, and we will be...
yeah, I'm just going through all the information I've got available relating to the server, and it doesn't appear that there are any issues with that.
What we will do is take a little, just a quick break from proceedings to see if it sorts itself out. We'll just flick away for a moment here, but we'll try and keep you a bit of updated on what's going on via the use of the live timing. So Andy Simpson quite
radio broadcast.
Radio broadcasting only. So Andy Simpson clearly out in front. Lewis Wedding is 30 seconds in arrears. Brenton Foley holding down third place. We're still waiting to see if Brock Harvey can get himself sorted. So Matt Webb, the last of the DNF, the most recent DNF, still showing in 8th, but he was 4 laps ahead of Brock Harvey. So
yeah,
we're kind of
Harvey
hoping that will...
still showing as being in the game on the live timing. So hopefully he can get that sorted and at least bring the car home to the race.
Yeah, we certainly hope that that is the case.
Seems like it may be an issue with the game or the track itself, because we're starting to have this issue happen. It's happening to me now as well. It's happening to our pit lane reporter Stairs.
Well, we had this happen in the 6 hour as well, didn't we, Bagsy? Yeah, we had all sorts of dramas in the 6 hour.
It seems to be either track or like mod tracks and cars that can cause it quite often when you go.
Yeah, I think it may be going down that road. I think it may be just the longer races, like the 6 hour and 2 hour race tonight on the mod tracks. Maybe during the 2 Formula 3 races, there were no issues like the ones we're having at the moment. So.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens if we have to call the race, because I would imagine that a number of the DNFs have probably recently have also probably been due to the fact that this issue has occurred in the past with some of the circuits, and probably occurring again now, I'd imagine. So we may have to call this race a little bit earlier than expected, but we will soon find out. We've got 10 minutes left. Oh, actually, we've got 9 minutes 20 left on the clock for this race.
8 minutes 48.
We've got
so 8:48 now.
Sorry guys, we've got Wedding off the track. He's just rejoined, still in second place, with Foley now right behind him.
All right, so that is that's tightened up. Live race is obviously a little bit further behind than what it is there. So the live race is telling us it's now 9 minutes, but according to that, it's probably more than likely to be about 8 minutes remaining.
We've got 8 minutes and 25 seconds.
Right, so we're a little bit behind the times here. So apologies to the viewers. You should be watching the closing stages of the final round of GT3.
Going inside into the final corner on Wedding, it looks like they made a little bit of contact, and Wedding has run wide. It didn't look too severe, but that has gained Foley's second position and put Lewis back down into third place, as I believe I'm the only one who can see anything that's happening.
Yeah, at the moment you are the only one that can see. So I'm just trying to work out whether or not you can actually get back into the server as a spectator when the race is happening,
yes,
but I don't think...
Yes, you can. I've already had to do that twice tonight.
Alright, so we might see if we can take a little bit of a break here and get ourselves sorted. Just bear with me a moment, please.
Looks as though Wedding has decided to just bring the car home now. He's realised the winner isn't cars anymore. Foley looks to be getting away from him.
But hats off to Brenton Foley. Like, he spent the majority of his race in second position, and
yeah,
he
very well deserved.
And a very well deserved second if he manages to hang on for the remaining couple of minutes.
Wedding, a little bit of a slide into the corkscrew there. All completely fine on the other end.
We'll be back with you in a few minutes, viewers, so just bear with us. We've had a few technical dramas at the start of the night, and looks like we're still having a few dramas with the track. The same sort of issues that we had in the 6 hour for the ARW 6 hour with the track. We believe it's actually a graphics setting issue when it does occur.
And I've just cycled through the field, and Wedding is back in front of Foley. I'm not sure what happened there. It must have had a mistake. For Wedding
Unless
to get back
something's...
through.
Well, we'll keep an eye on that when we get our
Figured out I do
host
actually have
broadcaster
the
back up and
ability-
running.
I do actually have the ability to replay what goes on, so I'm just having a look at that now.
So when Nether does get the image back up, he will not have timing. So unfortunately, we'll not be able to see timings to different people due to the way what happens when you rejoin the game mid-race. But we will be able to bring you this excellent battle between Foley and Wedding for second place.
Mine's been on 2 hours remaining and 17 laps in the race for the last hour and a half. So.
Yeah, it's the same issue that we had with the 6 hour, but we're going to have to go off the live timing. So the live timing's about 50 seconds ahead of what it actually is.
It looked like Foley just gave the position back to Wedding coming into the final corner.
So maybe there might have been something going on there.
Didn't seem to make a mistake, but he's now all over the back of him once again as they come back up to the last corner.
Yeah, well, we have our feed back, so big thanks to our host broadcasters. We will get ourselves sorted. So here we are. And as we rightly pointed out, it says there, lap 64 and 2 hours remaining. Well, that is clearly not the case. We've got Foley chasing Wedding for what will be the final 2 positions on the podium, second and third, and they've got 5 and a bit, or actually under 5 minutes to sort it out. I believe, Bags, you'll be able to tell me it's probably about 4 minutes and 40 odd seconds at this rate.
Yeah, approximately 5 minutes to go.
Approximately 5 minutes to go as of now. So we've got, according to the live timing, it says 5:25, so that means we've got, it's about 25 seconds differential. We'll do our best to bring it all to you.
I've just realised none of us actually know the exact amount of time remaining in the race.
I think
Making it so much more intense.
it's making it very intense. Wedding being pursued by Foley. Foley on much fresher tyres and much lighter fuel. Lewis has got light fuel, but he hasn't got the tyres underneath him. Boak sets his quickest lap of a 23.1. And Foley gave him a little bit of a love tap there. As Lewis Wedding manages to hang on. How much longer can he hang on? We know he's got fuel to burn, Lewis, because he put himself a fuel tank in on the final stop, which will get him to the flag comfortably. But it's a matter of by how far and how far can he push the thing. Little moment off of the last turn. Is that going to give Foley an opportunity? Stays in the slipstream. Lewis goes defensive here.
Brock Harvey is still slowly creeping down the straight, I believe, on the same lap.
Yeah, we're just trying there. Lewis with a slide job through turn number 2. So Foley gets a bit of a run here off of the exit turn 2. He's on the outside for turn number 3, but that's the better line. But Wedding manages to hold on. Great camera shots from our helicopter cam, and Wedding continues to hold on. He's going to have to hold on for another 3.5 minutes though, which was probably about another 2 and a bit laps.
Well, Foley has another look. He hasn't been able to get through there. They are so close on track at the moment.
They are very, very close. The closest battle on track by a long way. Only 4 runners currently on the lead lap. The leader, Andy Simpson, these two, and Greg Turra, the only cars on the lead lap. Foley looks to the outside of the corkscrew. No passing there.
Ambitious.
And that is that. And that is that for Brenton Foley. And he's hit the wall as well, trying to get himself sorted and turned around, but he'll have to engage reverse. There he goes. And now has to settle for 3rd place. So what was looking like a really good drive and was going to shape up to be a great battle to the flag has unfortunately come undone for Brenton Foley. Take nothing away from him though. He had a crack, and to go home with a podium is going to be a feather in his cap. He would have loved 2nd and to get one on Lewis Wedding, but 3rd is still very, very good for this man on the rise.
Yeah, it certainly is. We're looking like we're coming down to about 2 minutes to go.
Yeah, so we'll get another lap in at least. So where's our race leader? Our race leader is coming up to the last turn now.
Just trying to find out exactly how long he's left in this race.
Yeah, Brock Harvey's still creeping down the straight. You're right. He flashes in and flashes out. So by my calculation, Andy Simpson has got this lap. He'll get one more lap before the white flag, before the time expires, and then he'll have to do one more. So by my count, 3 more laps for the race leader.
It looks like my timing, most accurate. I've just got word through that there's now just under 2 minutes to go, and mine says just over 1.5 minutes left. So we'll assume that mine's within a couple seconds.
Yeah, live races has us with 1 minute 23 to go. So
Yep.
that's as close as we're going to get to accurate.
Yep, so very, very close. So we'll get this lap completed by Andy Simpson. We'll get one more, and then while he's on the next lap, the timer will expire, and then it'll be the white flag will be out for one more lap. As Andy Simpson coming up to the back of Greg Turra here. So if he does put Turra a lap down, that means only the podium positions will be on the lead lap at the conclusion of this race. So there he is, through on Turra, and Turra, the fourth place man, one lap down. Such is the dominance of Andy Simpson in terms of outright pace that he's been able to lap the entire field bar the other two podium positions.
It looks like we'll get this lap and one more.
Yep, so he has crossed the line, Andy Simpson, with about 30-odd, 40-odd seconds to go. So it's a time-certain race plus one lap. And Andy Simpson has completed 84 laps. So the prediction was roughly 85 laps, so it looks like we're going to get 86. Andy Simpson's actually put his pit request on here for an unusual reason, so I'm not sure what that's all about. But
perhaps he's just going to have a quick pit stop because he's got a minute on Lewis Wedding just to show him up a little bit.
In any case, the timer has expired, even though the clock on the broadcast says 2 hours. It has gone zeros. We have confirmed that. And your race leader, Andy Simpson, is coming around the second last turn now. And he'll come down. Oh, he's actually coming into the pits. So we were a bit wondering why that was on. So maybe he couldn't make it on fuel. Needs a splash and dash. So it's only going to be very, very quick. No tyres being changed. That means Turra gets his lap back. And yep, splash and dash. That's all it was for the race leader. So the race leader, very, very unusually, will address the white flag in the pit lane. There he is. Now up to racing speed, and he will have one more lap remaining. That's a very odd thing to say, isn't it, Chance, that the leader addresses the white flag in the pit lane?
Yeah, it's not. It's certainly not what regularly happens. That's for sure. He must have been just not quite able to get that extra lap in, which is a shame for him. He almost made it on 2 stops.
But just to add a little bit more to the end of this race, he thought he'd come through the pits just to give us one more thing to talk about.
Well, down to turn number 5 now on the final lap.
Wedding in the pits as well.
So Wedding in the pits, so they couldn't get going. So Wedding has had to stop a third time. So that's going to.
Foley's going to get second.
So
place.
Foley's going to get second. What on earth is happening here? Lewis hasn't been able to make the strategy work for him. Maybe spent a bit too much fuel. And Brenton Foley, credit where it's due, and Harvey gets going again. Is going to get second.
This is potentially going to get Greg Turra onto the podium as well, because he's about to come into the final corner. And Wedding is
not moving. There we go. Wedding's going.
Wedding's moving now. He is at the far end of the pit lane, so I think Wedding will beat Turra.
Well, take nothing away. We'll come back to have a look at that in a minute. But Andy Simpson down to the final turn for the final time on lap 86 of 86. A little bit of showboating off the last turn. Flashes the lights and addresses the checkered flag. Race win for Andy Simpson. Great job, despite the drive-through penalties, which will be much debated about. I'm sure Lewis will fill us in on that. Brenton Foley's just coming up the hill now, so turn 6 and up the corkscrew. So the man who occupied second place for the majority of the race, even led a few laps in between stops as well, will come home second. Unfortunately, Lewis Wedding not able to make it on fuel. It was set to be Lewis, so he'll be kicking himself that he probably didn't fuel save as much as he wanted to on that final stint, just to give him an insurance policy. But nonetheless, take nothing away from Brenton Foley. We've been talking about him during the night, up 6 places from where he started. He had a ripper start off the line, and he will come home to finish a brilliant second for Pro B. Great job, Brenton Foley and Ferrari.
A fantastic drive by Foley.
Fantastic drive.
Place at the end.
Wedding will hang on for third. So Wedding now negotiating the final 2 turns. There he is through turn 10. Now down to turn 11. He also needed a splash and dash to get done, so couldn't quite get there on the 2-stop strategy that he planned. It looked like it was going according to plan, but 1 lap more than what predicted. And Lewis gets third, and enough to secure himself not only Pro A honours, which he had sewn up before this championship deciding round was done, but he sews up the overall. Your Pro A champion and your overall GT3 champion, Lewis Wedding. There he is doing the donuts, or attempting to do the donuts. Great job, Lewis. Greg Tara grabs 4th overall, and Nangle finishes 5th. Boak in 6th. Matt Schwass in 7th, so these guys are all finishing up. Luke Joyner's still out on the circuit, so he's finished. He's crossed the line for 8th. Matt Webb's DNF classified him 9th. Brock Harvey still showing 10th on the live timing.
Yeah,
obviously
he has finished that final lap.
And obviously on this screen we can't, and on the broadcast we can't see it because of the issues we've been having. But
his final lap was 18 minutes 31 seconds .350, which if you were questioning the issues he was having, don't.
No. So he managed to get himself going there at the end of it all. But that is all she wrote for GT3, and we're going to do our best to get some of the guys into the survey here. We're just waiting for Lewis Wedding, but Brock Harvey is here. Speak of the man that had a lap time of 18 minutes on his last lap. Brock, if you can hear us, mate, talk us through what happened in the closing stages there, because you had all sorts of technical gremlins, and we were wondering if you were actually going to make it.
I made that as hard as I could for everybody. I know I was getting frame issues from lap 1, turn 2. And I was kind of just trying to keep going as best I could. And I didn't know where Greg was or where I had to finish in front. I still don't know if I have finished in front of Greg. So, I got down to 1 into the final corner, and I tried to just scrape along the wall until the checkers came out, and then hopefully I've classified and got some points out of that, and see how we go.
We'll wait for all that to shake itself out. But your 2 championship rivals have joined you, and I'd like to go to Greg first if I can. So, Greg Nangle's in here. Greg, you came into the championship deciding round in 3rd place. At this stage, it looks like you will get 3rd place overall and 2nd in the Pro B honours. Interesting battle there with your Mercedes counterpart in Greg Tara for a little bit. You guys formed a little bit of a cork in a champagne bottle in the early going.
Yeah. The Merc ain't great round there, but I guess probably everyone could say that about their car. Tuz and I have had a few good battles over the time, and that was another good one tonight. Although I guess we were probably holding people up, so sorry for that.
No, certainly gave us a bit of an interesting insight as to having a little bit of a train there and seeing how you guys were all cutting under each other and giving each other good space. It was good racing to see, but no, you certainly weren't holding anybody up, but you did make it interesting for us all.
Oh, good, yes. I think last time we had a bit of a tangle, we actually came together, so I suppose that was in both of our minds tonight that we weren't going to do that again.
No, certainly not. And well, congratulations on your finish in the GT3. So you get 3rd overall. You're 2nd in class to Brock Harvey in Pro B if they stand where they are. So Points Master Stairs will be working out the points, if not now in the coming couple of days, and we'll work it out. But you've had a great season nonetheless.
Super, yes, that's my first season of online racing, so it was an absolute ball, and I've met a bunch of great guys. I'm hoping to learn a lot more from people like Louis.
Well, speaking of Lewis Wedding, he's here with us, but before I go to him, I want to see if I can get a hold of Brenton Foley. Brenton, are you with us at the minute?
Yeah, I am.
Matey, we watched you driving most of the night, and you've come home a brilliant 2nd, and you kept your nose clean right up until the last moment where you lost it at the corkscrew, and you must have thought, I'm done, I'll have to settle for 3rd, and then Lewis come in for a splash and dash, but take nothing away from you. You drove a superb race. Job well done.
Oh, thank you very much, and that's pretty much exactly how I felt. I don't know if you guys had it, but I did pass him before that, but I felt it was a bit mean. I kind of pushed him wide, so
Yeah, Scruff
I
did make a
readdressed
comment.
that one.
Scruff did make a comment on that, and we missed it on the broadcast because we had a few technical dramas. But he did mention that you addressed the position. So do you want to give us a bit of an insight as to what happened there?
I came down to the last corner and kind of just ducked out at the last minute because I had a run, and I thought I could pull it up, but I was probably going a little bit too fast, and I think I got him in the driver's side door and just pushed him wide a little bit, and then I had to think about it and decided I don't like passing people like that, so I readdressed it at pretty much the same spot the next lap.
Good job, sensible driving, and definitely don't want something like that hanging over your head. But like we said, take nothing away from it. You drove a very, very good race, a very well-measured race. You had an excellent start, and you were right up there from the get-go, and you really never surrendered second place, apart from your battle with Lewis. So, great driving, and we're looking forward to seeing you in some future races. But speaking of Lewis, the champion is here, and Lewis, you've done enough to hold off Brock and hold off Greg at the end of it all, and you are not only the Pro A champ, but you are the overall GT3 champ. Job well done, mate. Congratulations.
Cheers. I guess I'm sort of happy in some ways to win the championship, but just obviously we had a couple guys, like obviously Jamie missed a lot of rounds in the middle of the season, and then we had I think Heath sort of fell away a little bit and wasn't too interested towards the end of the season, which made it a little bit hollow to some degree, but obviously it is always good to bring home a championship, or even after today being a bit frustrating for me.
It certainly is, and this is the only race that you've actually finished that you hadn't won. So you broke your record of if you're finishing the races, you were winning them, and if you and then the other ones you were DNFing. But this one is the only one of the lot that you didn't win, but you still finished on the podium.
Yeah, for a little while, sort of looking not too good. I think my race and my strategy was just completely sort of compromised in qualifying. My first lap, I think. Not that it was Brock's fault, because he was on a hot lap as well, but I just caught the back of him at the end of my lap, and then every subsequent lap after that, I'd be up on myself and then make a mistake, or I'd come up on traffic, and then on the last time lap, I was about to start a time lap, I had an incident with someone, so it was a bit frustrating. And then to start, I went nowhere, so I went all the way pretty much to second last or something, so I had to pick my way through the gap, and I was sort of hoping at some point there'd be a safety car, but didn't quite happen. Safety car probably would have been perfect for the strategy. Obviously, stopping one less time, it would have meant in two of my stints I could have just driven flat out, and then also the time in the pit stops that the leaders would have had to make, and the difference in lap times would have been different and would have helped me, but to no avail. Just glad to get through that race, to be honest, because it was a bit attritional, and then obviously I think there was a couple problems with that track. I know the two guys I was racing with in Anthony and Matt had problems with the circuit, which led to them having DNF. So I'm a bit grateful that I was able to finish, because I've had that happen to me in the past.
Yeah, and we've certainly seen that in the 6 hour as well, in a similar track issue, so something we'll definitely be looking to address. Before we go to Stairs with the points, Scruff or Bagsy, have you guys got any questions, not only for the champ, but any of the top three?
I'll let you go ahead, Scruff.
I was going to say the same to you, so I could think of a question.
Well, while you two think of questions, then maybe we will throw to Stairs for the points. So Stairs, you've got all the points worked out. I
do, and as such, the technical issues that AMS throws our way gives us perhaps something to scratch our heads about in terms of how we classify people, but we'll come to that in a moment. Lewis Wedding ended up on 95 points with that podium, so he wins by 10 points from Brock Harvey, who ended up finishing 9th. Because he did take the checkered flag with that 17-minute lap. And although Matt Webb did more laps than him, he didn't finish. And so the rules stipulates that 75% of the race distance must be completed. So criteria A was ticked, and criteria B, you've got to be running at the end of the race, which technically was the case. But I have a feeling maybe we should talk about maybe having like a minimum completion time for the final lap. But because that rule isn't in place, Brock Harvey does get classified as 9th, as I understand it. So that would be 85 points for him. And then Greg Nangle with 80 points finishes 3rd. Matt Schwass in 4th place with 72 points. Bretton Foley up to 5th with 64 points. Excellent end to the season for him with 2 podiums. And I think he was tracking along quite well at Spa as well before he had a connection issue. So a really strong end of the season for Brenton Foley. Matt Webb ends up on 60 points, so he finishes 6th there. Baker and Jamie Snow were tied on 57 points apiece, with Jamie Snow higher out of those two by virtue of having won the race at Imola in round 2. And then myself, I managed to stay in the top 10 in 9th place there, so 56 points, and then Heath Dixon on 54 points also managed to stay in the top 10. Philip Boak tied with him on 54 points, but Heath Dixon, by virtue of winning round 1 in Bathurst, takes that one on count back. So that's the top 10.
Beautiful. And so to confirm, in terms of the class championships, Lewis, we obviously had the Pro A title sewn up before tonight's race, but that means Brock Harvey is your Pro B champ, and if I'm not mistaken, Matt Webb is the Pro Am champion, correct?
Well, it depends how we consider that, because he's obviously not Pro-Am in terms of pace, so he's unranked, and I'm not sure if we were crowning a Pro-Am champion, but if you go back, the next highest Pro-Am ranked driver would be David Keane on 42 points. So jury's out on that one. I'm not sure how that will be.
Technically, at the start of the season, Stairs was also unranked, so we could say that Stairs is the is the unranked.
Well, if you're doing it that way, Webb's ahead of me anyway.
Yep. Well, we'll let that little bit be worked out in the next couple of days. Now, back to Bagsy and Scruff. Have either of you two managed to think up any questions, or are we going to close this down?
Bagsy has.
Oh, have I? I'll be honest with her. I think that you covered most of it.
All right.
There's much that we can really add.
All right. I think that's a no then. So we'll wind this little thing up. So before we go any further, I have got a little upcoming events thing, despite the fact we didn't have a little thing prepared earlier. But just to give you an idea of what's coming up, that is the end of not only GT3, but obviously we've recently ended Formula 3 and we've ended the Super Series as well. So looking ahead to what's actually coming up, now there was one I needed to slot into the record here. You can see at the top there we've got the Formula 1 pre-season test. So the F1 series replaces the Formula 3. It was scheduled to start next weekend, but it has been pushed out by a couple of weeks. And there is a pre-season test at the Okayama circuit in Japan on Sunday the 22nd of July. Prior to that, there was a little event on the calendar, which it just said the ARW pre-season cup, and we weren't sure what was going on there. That actually is on the 19th of July, and that is at the Red Bull Ring. That's a pre-season test for the Lancer Cup, which is the Super Series replacement. So that unfortunately didn't get put onto the calendar on your screen there, but that is taking place this coming Thursday the 19th for all the guys running in the Lancer Cup. So get your skates on for that one, boys. That's a full field and a full grid. And then next broadcast, official broadcast, is going to be Supercars Round 9 from Queensland Raceway. That's on Thursday the 26th of July. Stairs and Madbird heading up the commentary for that one. And then the replacement for GT3 kicks off on Sunday the 29th of July. WEC, World Endurance Championship Round 1 at Daytona International Speedway. No, we're not running the Speedway like the NASCAR. It's the road course that is normally famous for the 24-hour event in Florida. So that's going to be a 2-hour race as well. So we're going to have a similar thing in the WEC, where we run some 90-minute events or 80-minute events, and there will be a couple of 2-hour ones thrown in, and the Daytona round is one of them, so stay tuned for that. My thanks as usual to Bagsy and to Scruff for their comments throughout the season and throughout the broadcast that we do. This has been round 9 of the GT3 Championship, the final round of the AMS Australia GT3 Championship, and like I always say at the end of every broadcast, and I do mean this seriously, please everyone, drive safely. We'll see you next time.